Chapter 1031. As these words spread, the crowd behind immediately quietened down. Numerous gazes that were filled with ridicule and disdain swept back and forth between Xiao Yan and the person from the Yuan mansion. On the other hand, Hai Zhantian and Hai Machen, after hearing the conversation between the two, one had a cold expression while the other had a mocking expression. "Father, what do you think?" Seeing the two people in the arena who had drawn their swords in the blink of an eye, the clan leader of the Sea Shark clan involuntarily turned his gaze to Hai Zhantian. However, when he saw the cold expression on Hai Zhantian's face, the words that had reached his mouth were forcefully swallowed back down. "All right, let's end this quickly." Xiao Yan rubbed his eyebrows and replied indifferently. Immediately, his right hand slowly clenched into a fist. A powerful force gathered in his palm. The remaining people from the Yuan mansion behind the 9-star Do Di exchanged glances with each other. Immediately, they took the initiative to take a few steps back, leaving the space in front of them for the two of them. Numerous gazes revealed an expression of disdain when they looked at Xiao Yan. One could imagine the result of a 7-star Do Di facing a 9-star Do Di, even if one used one's heel. Humph, he actually dares to accept it. This brat is really seeking death. Xue Kuei once killed 10 Do Di with his own strength. This brat is actually stupid enough to agree to be his opponent. I'm afraid that he would be crippled with just one punch from Xue Kuei. Ha 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 ha. The group of people from the Yuan mansion crossed their arms as they looked at the two people in front of them. Their words were filled with cold laughter. Although the two of them had yet to attack, they seemed to have already seen Xiao Yan's miserable and painful appearance when he was defeated. Of course, not everyone had the same thoughts. At the very least, the clan leaders of the two large sea clans involuntarily carried some doubt when they looked at Xiao Yan. A person who was thought so highly of by Hai Zhantian dared to take the initiative to attack, and dared to say such unruly words in the face of 29-star Do Di. This kind of person was either a fool or someone who had absolute confidence in his own strength. And the Xiao Yan in front of him was obviously not a fool. Although they had already thought of this point in their hearts, these two clan heads still involuntarily held some doubt in their hearts. After all, even from their point of view, the gap between Xiao Yan and this 9-star Do Di was really too great. No matter how they looked at it, it was impossible for Xiao Yan to win. Humph, kid, I admire your courage. But unfortunately, many things can't be done with courage alone. Xue Kuei sneered as he looked at Xiao Yan with a ferocious expression. The Do Qi in his body began to circulate and flow into the various meridians in his body. You really talk a lot of nonsense. Xiao Yan's cold voice followed just as the words were spat out from Xue Kuei's mouth. Almost at the same time, he stomped his foot heavily and his body immediately charged forward. The short-distance charge allowed Xiao Yan to appear in front of Xue Kuei the instant he moved. Xue Kuei's expression did not change in the face of Xiao Yan's sudden attack. His feet took half a step back. At the same time, his large fist was abruptly raised. Do Qi surged and covered his entire arm in the blink of an eye. The temporary Do Qi turned into a layer of energy crystals that violently collided with Xiao Yan's fist. Die! A loud roar rang out. Almost at the same time, the fists of the two men collided with each other. Following the muffled sound of the collision, an invisible energy ripple immediately swept out. Some of the people nearby subconsciously squinted their eyes. Only after that did they focus their eyes again. Their eyes immediately revealed expressions of surprise. An instant after the two fists collided, the surging Do Qi that was agglomerated in Xue Kuei's palm immediately poured out. The powerful strength was like a volcanic eruption as it violently struck Xiao Yan's fist. The frightening strength caused the space around the two of them to instantly shatter. Wild and violent energy ripples once again swept outwards. The extremely powerful force caused even the people from the Yuan mansion behind Xue Kuei to involuntarily become serious when they felt it. They believed that no one below the origin transformation realm would be able to block such a ferocious punch, let alone Xiao Yan, who was only a 7-star Do Di. However, reality once again overturned their guesses in their hearts. The next scene that appeared in front of them made everyone present immediately dumbfounded. Regardless of how ferocious this attack of Xue Kuei was, it was completely blocked by a layer of substance like golden light when it landed on Xiao Yan's fist. Xiao Yan's body still did not move even a little. The wild storm-like attacks in front of him appeared like a gentle breeze when they landed on his body. They did not cause any ripples. What? How is this possible? Xue Kuei's heart was immediately shocked when he saw this scene. The expression on his face instantly changed drastically. By the time he recovered and looked at Xiao Yan, the latter's statue-like unmoving body finally trembled slightly. Only at this moment did the power on Xiao Yan's arm completely erupt. The extremely powerful force was like a herd of crazy bulls that charged around in an instant. The layer of energy crystal that covered Xue Kuei's entire arm was quickly filled with visible cracks. Immediately after, the moment the energy crystal completely shattered, Xue Kuei's entire arm also uncontrollably twisted. At the same time, his face, which had been filled with malevolence a moment ago, was also twisted. All the bones in his entire arm had already been broken. The thick muscles in his arm appeared to be twisted and tightened as though they were spasming. His face was flushed red. Xiao Yan's punch had basically completely crippled his arm. With his current condition, it was likely that it would be very difficult for him to recover from this injury without a few months' time after he returned. Xue Kuei appeared to be unable to withstand a single blow from the two forces that had erupted one after another. It even caused one to involuntarily wonder if he had really used his full strength. For the dignity of the Sea Clan, Xue Kuei would naturally not hold back when he attacked. This punch of his was something that even an expert of the same level would not dare to underestimate. However, when faced with Xiao Yan, one could only say that it was not that Xue Kuei was too weak. Instead, it was that the Xiao Yan he was facing was really too strong. He was so strong that he did not have any room to resist. The unstoppable battle caused everyone in front of Xiao Yan to be shocked. Even the expressions on the faces of the clan heads of the two large sea clans were extremely interesting. They did not dare to imagine that Xue Kuei, who was a 9-star Dodi, would actually be defeated in the hands of a 7-star Dodi. Moreover, he had been defeated in such a straightforward manner. This was really unbelievable. Was this kind of strength really something that a 7-star Dodi could unleash? Xiao Yan's punch had defeated Xue Kuei, who was a 9-star Dodi. At the same time, it was like a ruthless slap to the faces of the leaders of the Sea Clan behind him. At this moment, their old faces had become ashen. The emotions in their hearts were turbulent. Everyone looked at each other and realized that everyone's eyes were filled with a rich shock. This brat, how could he? He is clearly just a 7-star Dodi. Damn it, he injured Xue Kuei. Let's attack together and make this brat pay the price. As for the remaining 19 people from the Yuan mansion, their faces were filled with disbelief. At the same time, there was even more anger on their faces. With a stern cry, the bodies of the 19 people shook. A powerful aura immediately surged out from their bodies as they attempted to attack Xiao Yan again. Enough! If you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. This is the method that you chose. A loss is a loss. Now, the most important thing is the matter of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea. You are actually fighting over such a matter. Do you want others to see that the Yuan mansion that my Sea Serpent clan has nurtured is such a group of unruly people? However, just as the remaining 19 people from the Yuan mansion were about to attack, the red-haired middle-aged man, who was the clan leader, finally berated them with a gloomy face. Immediately, everyone, including the clan members behind him, quieted down. The dignity of a clan leader was vividly displayed at this moment. Subsequently, the red-haired middle-aged man looked at Xiao Yan again. His expression changed, and he immediately revealed a kind smile. Little brother, I hope you don't take the matter of the empty realm to heart. If possible, we still hope that you can handle the matter of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea. As soon as these words left his mouth, everyone present knew that the Sea Serpent clan had declared defeat. Immediately after, the clan leader of the Sea Shark clan also stepped forward and cupped his fists to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan naturally did not dare to neglect these two people. He gently shook, and after shaking off Xue Kuei, who was in front of him, he bowed to the two and said, "You are both very polite. Seniors, you're too polite. Since I've already promised senior high, I'll naturally do my best. As for what happened just now, I didn't take it to heart. Please rest assured." Hearing this, the two people secretly heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. Humph, sky-devouring dragon, control your clan members well. Let them think clearly about their status. If it were not for the matter of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, I would have already killed most of the idiots behind you. If this old man doesn't come out, have you all forgotten who I am? At this moment, Hai Zhantian once again stepped forward and arrived beside Xiao Yan. His extremely cold gaze swept over everyone in front of him. Finally, it returned to the two people in front of him. The words that were spat out from his mouth caused the hearts of everyone present to tremble. They did not doubt the truth of Hai Zhantian's words. If it was in the past, it was likely that Hai Zhantian would have already become furious and used his blood blade to intimidate everyone. However, after so many years, his temper had become much more restrained. However, this did not mean that he would allow these people to do whatever they wanted. After this matter was over, Hai Zhantian would probably make fun of some of them. Chapter 1032. Xiao Yan. I will temporarily stabilize the space of the underwater void realm. You just have to take advantage of this time to enter the entrance of the underwater void realm and shatter the formations that seal the entrance. This way, the people inside can leave the underwater void realm. Xiao Xian, whose body was faint and ethereal beside Xiao Yan, spoke in a faint voice. The latter gently nodded. If it was only like this, it would not be too difficult. Ancestor, are you okay? Xiao Yan turned his head. He looked at the ethereal Xiao Xian in front of him, and involuntarily asked in a worried manner. Haha, I just lost some soul power. I just need to rest for a while to recover. What's important now is the underwater void realm. You should go in quickly before anything happens. Okay. Seeing Xiao Xian like this, Xiao Yan didn't say anything else and nodded heavily. His figure flashed slightly, and in the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of the entrance of the underwater void realm. Xiao Yan, please. Before Xiao Yan entered the underwater void realm, Hai Zhantian once again cupped his fists at Xiao Yan. The latter also nodded with a serious face, and with a twist of his body, he turned around and entered the underwater void realm. In the outside world, when everyone saw Xiao Yan enter the underwater void realm, their hearts were in their mouths. There was both anticipation and worry in their eyes. Xiao Yan's success or failure was related to the future fate of the entire Sea Clan. How could the rulers of the Sea Clan not be nervous? At this moment, the only one who could be at ease was probably Hai Machin. Perhaps it was because of the subtle connection between the two of them that made Hai Machin have absolute confidence in Xiao Yan. Even Xiao Xian didn't have that. At least, he couldn't help but worry about Xiao Yan's safety. When Xiao Yan entered the underwater virtual realm, the world in front of him was suddenly filled with white light. The dazzling light made Xiao Yan unable to help but close his eyes. He raised his hand to cover the light in front of him. It was not until a long time later that he gradually adapted to it. When Xiao Yan opened his eyes, the white light in front of him gradually dimmed, and his vision became clear. The blue flowing light was like flowing water as it surged into the depths of the enormous energy tunnel that was hundreds of feet in diameter. The azure light illuminated the entire tunnel until it was bright. Xiao Yan's gaze looked into the distance. The end of the tunnel was the destination of his trip to the empty realm at the bottom of the sea. Without any hesitation, Xiao Yan moved and quickly flew towards the depths of the tunnel. Half an hour later, Xiao Yan's flying figure slowly came to a stop. A huge formation had appeared in front of him. It stood in the middle of the tunnel and blocked Xiao Yan's path. This was the problem Xiao Yan needed to solve on this trip. A powerful energy aura spread out from the formation. The mysterious runes flickered with a bright blue light. The solid formation looked as clear and bright as crystal, giving off an indestructible feeling. Approaching it, Xiao Yan slowly extended his hand. Do Qi gathered in his palm, and then he carefully pressed it against the formation in front of him. Hum hum hum. The moment Xiao Yan's hand was placed on the formation, the energy contained within the formation immediately agglomerated under Xiao Yan's hand. Immediately, one could hear a low and deep bang sound. Xiao Yan's hand was sent flying by the energy. At the same time, Xiao Yan's feet also subconsciously took half a step back. Raising his eyes, Xiao Yan looked at the formation in front of him with surprise. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The virtual realm fruit at the bottom of the sea was indeed formed by the power of the world. The energy contained in it was much more powerful than an ordinary formation. However, even so, it didn't mean that Xiao Yan couldn't break it. Force Elephant Tactic. With a low shout in his heart, the enormous power hidden in his muscles suddenly erupted. The moment his right fist clenched tightly, the muscles on his entire arm bulged high. With a raise and a fall of his arm, the wind from his fist whistled. Immediately after, the vast and mighty power was like a flash flood as it poured out in torrents, fiercely bombarding the array in front of him. Boom! Accompanied by a loud sound, the entire formation shook violently. Circles of energy ripples surged out from the formation. Unfortunately, although Xiao Yan's attack was powerful, it didn't seem to cause any real damage to the formation. In this regard, Xiao Yan didn't show any surprise on his face. After all, this was the power of the world. If it was so easy to break, it would be too inferior. One punch wasn't enough. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yan punched again. This time, it wasn't any weaker than the previous punch. The place where the ripples were stirred up a moment ago surged again. At the same time, Xiao Yan's powerful bombardment fell again like continuous raindrops. Boom, 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 boom. After dozens of consecutive punches, the entire formation began to shake. In the end, the formation even caved in at the place where Xiao Yan's fist landed. Finally, Xiao Yan relied on his powerful physical strength to forcefully break the formation. After breaking the formation, Xiao Yan finally sighed in relief. With his strength, even a 9-star Do-D wouldn't be able to endure his continuous attacks. However, this formation was actually able to endure for such a long time. This was enough to show how powerful this formation was. However, just as Xiao Yan was panting and relaxing in his heart, Xiao Yan discovered that there was actually another formation quietly standing not far from this formation after the formation was shattered. Seeing this scene, the corner of Xiao Yan's mouth involuntarily twitched. He was stunned in his heart. Xiao Xian only told him that he had to break the formation inside in order to save the people and leave. However, he didn't tell him how many such formations there were. Was it 1 or 2, 10 or 100? Or even more? If that was the case, regardless of how great Xiao Yan's ability was, he wouldn't be able to save the people. Xiao Yan involuntarily cursed in his heart when he thought of this. It was a long while later before he withdrew his thoughts. His body flashed and arrived in front of the next formation. Since Xiao Xian allowed him to enter without worry, it was likely that there wouldn't be much of a problem with the formations here. After all, if there were too many of them, how could Xiao Xian, who was clearly aware of the strength of this formation, not inform Xiao Yan beforehand? Soon after, another round of wild bombardment began. In order to reduce the time and prevent any other unforeseen events from occurring, Xiao Yan's attacks this time around had become much sharper and more powerful. With merely over 10 fierce punches, he forcefully shattered the second formation. As expected, a third formation appeared soon after. This time around, Xiao Yan did not hesitate much. He used a powerful Do skill to suppress the formation the moment he attacked. With merely 3 feet of strength, he forcefully shattered the formation. However, soon after the next formation appeared. Only when the 7th formation was broken did Xiao Yan, who was already feeling a little impatient in his heart, hear the noisy cries from the other end of the tunnel. Chapter 1033. Hearing the clear noise that was transmitted to his ears, Xiao Yan's gaze slowly descended and fixed on the formation in front of him. Through this sound, Xiao Yan could basically determine that those people were definitely not far behind this formation. From the looks of it, the passageway to the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea was finally about to open. Huff! After taking a deep breath, Xiao Yan did not blindly use his physical strength this time around. Instead, he raised both of his hands and his 10 fingers moved together to form a seal rapidly. At the same time, the Do Chi in his body surged and quickly agglomerated into a flaming finger above Xiao Yan's head. Desolation Finger. Following this, the instant this finger was formed, Xiao Yan immediately let out a low cry from his mouth. The huge finger that was suspended high above his head suddenly fell at this moment and violently bombarded the formation in front of him. Boom! A violent bombardment immediately spread out and the entire passageway trembled violently at this moment. Following this, a clear cracking sound was heard and this almost solid formation suddenly burst apart. When the formation disappeared, the passageway in front of Xiao Yan was naturally unobstructed. At the same time, the noise that reverberated beside Xiao Yan's ears also became clear because of this. Raising his eyes and looking over, at the end of the passageway, a large group of black figures was hurriedly rushing towards where Xiao Yan was at this moment. Within a short span of a few breaths, they had already arrived in front of Xiao Yan. These people were wearing 2 different colored clothes. One was blue while the other was a dark red robe. They each represented the Sea Shark tribe and the Sea Serpent tribe. However, the people from the 2 tribes, who were usually at odds with each other, had gathered together at this moment. They used all their strength to swiftly and wildly rush toward Xiao Yan's side. Seeing Xiao Yan appear in their line of sight, everyone's faces immediately revealed an expression of wild joy. They had just personally witnessed the formation that gave them an incomparable headache being shattered by the latter. The path in front of them should have been cleared and unobstructed. How could they not be excited? As they approached, the speed of everyone gradually slowed down. Finally, they stopped in front of Xiao Yan. "Thank you, Elder, for saving us." Although Xiao Yan's appearance in front of them was not much different from them, since the person in front of them was able to enter this place, it meant that he was personally appointed by the leaders of their two tribes. Such a person could not be disrespected. Hearing this, Xiao Yan smiled and nodded. He then asked, "How many people from the Sea tribe are left in the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea?" "Sir, the people from the younger generation of our tribe are all gathered here. There should be no one else left in the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea. This is because the moment the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea changed, we have all gathered at the exit. It has been a full week. There should be no one else." After Xiao Yan's end, Xiao Yan's, Zhao's, the of the emptiness of the sea. At the same time, outside the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea, everyone was anxiously waiting. Until a certain moment, the originally calm entrance to the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea suddenly surged. Circle after circle of energy ripples swiftly spread. Soon after, a human figure suddenly shot out from within. Immediately, a second human figure followed by even more. When a large group of figures leaped out like fish, the crowd outside also became restless. Cheers rose one after another. The people of the two clans who were anxious a moment ago had a look of ecstasy on their faces in the next moment. At the same time, the big stone hanging high in the bottom of their hearts was also steadily dropped. However, among these people, the two leaders of the two sea clans and Heartwarming, who was floating in the air with his brows tightly knitted, did not change their expressions for a long time. Until the last person jumped out of the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea, the three of them still did not see the person they were looking forward to seeing. "What's going on? Linger she? Why hasn't she come out yet? Blood Crown. What exactly happened to you?" The leader of the Sea Serpent clan, Sky-Devouring Dragon, frowned as he stared at the entrance of the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea. Until the last moment, when Xiao Yan came out, he did not see his son leave. This made him feel uneasy in his heart. "Did any of you see Hai Ling? Standing up, Heartwarming's face was filled with worry as he loudly shouted. Instantly, everyone's gazes involuntarily landed on him. "Did you see Blood Crown? Did he leave the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea with you?" At this time, Sky-Devouring Dragon also came to Heartwarming's side. The two of them stood at the same height and scanned the crowd below with the same expression. However, almost everyone frowned and shook their heads. It was only after a long while that a member of the Sea Serpent clan hesitantly opened his mouth and said, "Clan leader, when we gathered at the entrance of the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea, I saw the young clan leader. However, he didn't stay there for long before he hurriedly entered the depths of the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea. As for where he went, I don't know." As soon as this was said, Sky-Devouring Dragon's face suddenly changed. In this case, Blood Crown was indeed still in the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea. As for Heartwarming's granddaughter, Hai Ling, although the situation was unknown, it was certain that the latter was definitely still in the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea. In the end, other than the sons and daughters of the two clan leaders, the rest of the younger generation of the two sea clans had all come out. This was a bit of a joke. At this moment, while the two of them felt dignified, two pairs of eyes involuntarily fell on Xiao Yan again. Feeling the gazes of these two people, Xiao Yan could only helplessly smile bitterly in his heart. The younger generation of the Sea Clan had just escaped from danger. How could they enter the tiger's den again at this moment? Therefore, the heavy burden of going in to find the two people naturally fell on him again. "Little friend Xiao Yan, I'm afraid I have to trouble you again." Heartwarming frowned. Heartwarming knit his brows. He was naturally aware of the dangers of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea. Once Xiao Yan entered and was unable to find the two of them within a short period of time, forget about rescuing them. He might even end up losing his life. Such a thing was something that an ordinary person would not be able to do. However, Xiao Yan was not someone that an ordinary person could compare with. "All right, I'll go in again, but I have to say in advance that I'm not completely confident that I can find them. If I can't find them in the end, then no matter what, I will withdraw from the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea." Xiao Yan inhaled a deep breath of air and nodded his head. At the same time, He also mentioned the worst possible outcome. Although he would intervene, this was under the precondition that he could ensure his own safety. He would not do a business that would result in a loss. Hearing this, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon nodded. They naturally understood this point. However, what they hoped in their hearts was that Xiao Yan could safely bring Blood Crown and Hai Linger out of the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea. This was the best outcome for both sides. Immediately after, Xiao Yan turned around and was about to enter the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea again. However, at this moment, Xiao Xian stopped him. Xiao Yan, there's one thing I have to remind you. I don't have much spiritual strength left, and the pressure from the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea is increasing. I can't guarantee the stability of the space inside the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea. Therefore, you must come out within 7 days. Otherwise, once 7 days have passed, I'm afraid I won't be able to support the space of the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea. At that time, you will be sealed inside. As for what will happen to the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea, no one knows. Therefore you must be quick. Even if you can't find them, you have to take care of yourself. Xiao Xian's tone was particularly solemn. Hearing this, Xiao Yan nodded heavily and muttered, 7 days? That's enough. Don't worry, ancestor. I will definitely come out. With a smile, Xiao Yan turned around and once again disappeared into the entrance of the emptiness realm at the bottom of the sea. At the same time, the smile on his face immediately turned serious. Chapter 1034. Xiao Yan naturally adapted to this tunnel even faster than before after entering it once again. He opened his eyes and immediately moved, swiftly flying toward the deep parts of the tunnel. In 7 days, he must find the 2 young masters of the Sea Clan in this underwater virtual realm. It was easy to say, but it was extremely difficult to do. The underwater virtual realm was a world of its own. The space inside was not small. Looking for one person in thousands of miles of mountains and rivers was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Not to mention that he was looking for 2 people now. In addition to the changes in the underwater virtual realm, the environment was more or less damaged. This greatly increased the difficulty of Xiao Yan to find them. 2 hours later, Xiao Yan finally reached the end of the passage. After passing through a blue light curtain, the world in front of him suddenly opened up. In the vast and boundless world, there were mountains and mountains. The lush forest covered thousands of miles. The torrential river stretched across the mountains and mountains, extending to the endless distance. However, this beautiful scene had already changed drastically at this moment. The mountains collapsed, the forests were overturned, and even the river was blocked by an inexplicable force. The whole world was filled with wild and violent roars. Birds and beasts were running around between the heaven and earth. There were even magical beasts that turned their eyes to Xiao Yan, who suddenly appeared, and they immediately roared and attacked. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yan immediately frowned. He flipped his hand and the heavy Xian ruler immediately landed in his hand. The huge ruler swept horizontally and the wide surface of the ruler smashed the huge beast that was heading toward him, sending it flying. It smashed into the mountain forest below and attracted even more magic beasts. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yan couldn't help but secretly say in his heart. It seemed that the trouble he had to face was not only the environment of this world, but also these troublesome magical beasts. In this way, the difficulty of finding people would be greatly increased. Facing the magical beasts that rushed over again, Xiao Yan raised the giant buster sword in his hand. His palm pressed against the surface of the buster sword, and he waved it fiercely. The white flame immediately climbed up the buster sword. Then, he turned around and swept it. The magnificent buster sword swept out, and the oncoming magical beasts were blown away again. However, these magical beasts seemed to be endless. They were like waves that rushed to the shore. Each wave was higher than the previous one, and it was endless. After more than 10 times of resistance, Xiao Yan's heart couldn't help but feel heavy. He didn't know why these guys worked together to put their brutal killing intent on him, a human. Perhaps it was because he didn't belong to this space. After all, it was because of them that this world was in such a ruined state. All of this was caused by them, the outsiders. Sorry, I can't make up for what happened here. I didn't come here to look for you. When I find those 2 people, I will leave. Frowning and shaking his head, Xiao Yan put away the dark buster sword. When another wave of magical beasts rushed over, his figure suddenly flickered and turned into a gust of wind. He passed through this place at an amazing speed, and soon disappeared from this world. After a while, Xiao Yan's figure landed on the top of a mountain. This place was relatively safe. At least there weren't any magical beasts in the vicinity. Sitting down cross-legged, Xiao Yan closed his eyes. From between his eyebrows, surging soul power suddenly spread out and quickly searched for the two special auras in this mountain forest. Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring flood dragon had specially given Xiao Yan an accessory that contained the aura of the two of them before they entered the void realm at the bottom of the sea. This also increased the chances of Xiao Yan finding them. However, the vastness of the underwater void realm was obviously something that Xiao Yan didn't expect. Even with his soul power, after a search, he still couldn't find the auras of the two people. In other words, he now had to find another place to search. In addition, he couldn't rule out the possibility that the two people could move around at any time. In this way, the probability of Xiao Yan finding them would be even lower. In addition, if the two people had already been besieged by those magical beasts and died, Xiao Yan didn't dare to think about this point, nor did he want to think about it. After all, his purpose in entering the underwater void realm was not to see the worst result. Xiao Yan's probing was useless. He could only get up and continue to head to the deepest part of the void realm. At the same time, his spiritual strength was searching all around him. Unfortunately, his probing was useless. Instead, it attracted the attention of quite a number of magical beasts with powerful cultivations. This also added a lot of trouble to Xiao Yan's search. At the same time, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon outside were also waiting anxiously. Time passed little by little. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yan had been in the underwater void realm for 4 days. However, Xiao Yan still didn't know the whereabouts of the two people. Until a certain moment. In the underwater void realm, Xiao Yan was floating in the air, frowning as he looked around. Ever since he entered the underwater void realm, he had been constantly going deeper. From his current distance, even if he rushed to the entrance of the underwater void realm, it would take a long time. If he continued to search blindly, the time left for him would be even more limited. After hesitating for a while, Xiao Yan gritted his teeth, raised his gaze, and rushed forward again. No matter what, he had to persevere until the last moment. Boom! At this moment, somewhere in the underwater void realm, an earth-shattering boom suddenly resounded in the underwater void realm like thunder. Immediately, Xiao Yan's rushing figure suddenly stopped. A pair of sharp eyes also looked in the direction of the sound. He couldn't see the specific location of the sound, but he could feel the strong aura of the explosion. Therefore, Xiao Yan almost didn't think much in his heart and immediately rushed in that direction. Regardless of whether it was one of the two people, as long as there was even the slightest possibility, it was worth Xiao Yan to try. A short moment later, Xiao Yan's figure had already appeared in the sky above the place where the explosive sound was emitted. Looking down from a high vantage point, he saw that the place where the sound originated from was a small valley. At this very moment, a young man wearing the clothes of the sea serpent tribe was facing a group of magical beasts that had once again surrounded him with an extremely solemn expression. His heart was like the rocks that had fallen into the valley, falling to the bottom of the valley. In addition, Xiao Yan also discovered that there was a surging aura of energy that was constantly increasing in the depths of the small valley. The energy of the world was also gathering because of this. It wasn't hard to imagine that the reason why these magical beasts gathered here was because of the inhalation in the valley. Hey, it is really a case of searching high and low only to find it by sheer luck. It is unexpected that these two people are actually in the same place. This has saved me quite a lot of time. Xiao Yan smiled in his heart and involuntarily sighed in relief. From the looks of the energy state in the valley, that person was clearly at the critical moment of his breakthrough. If he was disturbed at this moment, it was likely that not only would his breakthrough be interrupted, but even his foundation would be affected. However, from the looks of that man, he appeared to be determined. It seemed that he was determined to help him block these magical beasts that were coming. Roar! It was also at this moment that the magical beasts that surrounded the man below once again launched an attack. Even though the young man had the cultivation of a 9-star Do-D, he was unable to block the combined attack of over 10 magical beasts. Within a couple of breaths, the young man's attack was directly suppressed. After which, the remaining few magical beasts circled around the young man and charged into the small valley. Damn it, don't even think about entering. Seeing this scene, the expression on the young man's face immediately changed drastically. He ignored the other magical beasts around him and attempted to charge toward the entrance of the valley. However, he was sent flying by a magical beast beside him with a claw. He could only watch the few magical beasts enter the valley with an unwillingness in his heart. Bang! However, it was also at this moment that a dark black flowing light descended from the sky like a falling star. It instantly descended on the head of the magical beast that was leading the group. A frightening strength immediately erupted. That magical beast did not even have the time to emit a miserable cry before it was instantly killed by this strength. Those magical beasts that followed close behind were also sent flying by the enormous black ruler that was swung over. In the blink of an eye, the entrance of the valley was completely cleaned by this unknown strength. After which, the smoke and dust scattered in front of the young man's shocked eyes. A black-robed young man was standing upright on the head of the magical beast that had already died. The corner of his mouth was lifted into a smile. His gaze landed on the former as he asked with a smile, "You are the Blood Crown?" Chapter 1035. Yes, yes. May I ask who you are? The young man climbed up from the ground in a miserable manner. He ignored the pain that was being transmitted from all over his body as he asked with a surprised face. I am called Xiao Yan. I was entrusted by Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring flood dragon to rescue you. The one inside should be the granddaughter of Hai Zhantian, Hai Ling, right? Xiao Yan sighed in relief. He nodded, raised his chin and asked once again. Yes. However, she is currently at the critical moment of her breakthrough. Therefore, please ensure that she will not be affected. As soon as he heard that it was someone his father and Hai Zhantian had found, a look of joy flashed across Xue Mian's face. However, immediately after, a wave of worry surged in his heart. He frowned slightly as he looked at the entrance of the valley with a worried look in his eyes. Xiao Yan involuntarily parted his mouth and smiled when he sensed this. It seemed that the reason why Xue Crown had returned to the deep part of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea was most likely because of Hai Ling. Soon after, Xue Crown leaped and dodged the attack of the magical beast behind him. In the blink of an eye, he arrived beside Xiao Yan. He waved his hand and a halberd immediately landed in his hand. There was a whistling sound as it was waved. It appeared to be quite powerful. Mr. Xiao Yan, please temporarily guard this place with me. We will leave this place together after Ling Er's cultivation has broken through. The face of Xue Mian, who had recovered, had already become cold. A thought passed through his mind and the dou qi within his body immediately surged out. It climbed onto the halberd and emitted a clear watery glow. A layer of strange scales also appeared to have appeared on the halberd. Xiao Yan involuntarily smiled when he saw this. At this moment, Xue Crown had already exhausted over half of his dou qi. It was likely that he would not be able to last for long if he continued to fight. If he were to be injured again, it would instead become a burden for him. Cuckoo, I think you should recover your dou qi first. With your current condition, you won't be able to hold on. As he spoke, Xiao Yan casually threw a medicinal pill to the latter. Immediately, without waiting for Blood Crown to react, he lifted the giant ruler and stomped heavily on the ground. The huge beast's corpse immediately sank a little. At the same time, Xiao Yan's body turned into a dark black ray of light. In the blink of an eye, he had already charged into the group of magical beasts. Mr. Xiao Yan, you're alone. The expression of Xue Mian, who had recovered, immediately changed. His mouth hurriedly opened in an attempt to stop Xiao Yan. However, before the words from his mouth sounded, he saw those magical beasts being ruthlessly sent flying by Xiao Yan's heavy Xian ruler like dolls. They did not even have the slightest ability to retaliate during the entire process. This scene caused one to be stunned. In such a situation, it was simply impossible. However, creating a possibility out of the seemingly impossible and breaking the norm. Was this not Xiao Yan? Within a short moment, the group of magical beasts surrounding the small valley had been completely swept away by Xiao Yan. They were either dead or no longer had the ability to fight. Moreover, the moment they saw Xiao Yan, their bodies trembled as they crawled on the ground. Their mouths repeatedly let out miserable cries. Even the will to fight had been forcefully extinguished. The frightening strength that Xiao Yan displayed also caused Xue Mian's heart to be greatly shocked. His entire body was stunned on the spot. He watched the magical beasts scatter and retreat in all directions. After which, he looked at the corpses of the magical beasts all over the ground. His heart really did not dare to imagine that such a frightening battle result was actually achieved by this young man, who appeared to be even younger than him. It was really unbelievable. With Xiao Yan's suppression, the magical beasts did not dare to advance again for a short period of time. Hence, Xiao Yan turned around and entered the valley behind him. Xue Mian followed closely behind him. After the two of them entered the valley, they looked around and saw that the small cave was surrounded by mountains on all sides. Only at the top could they see a small piece of the sky. There were also many slits between the mountains on all sides. The energy of the world entered through the slits and the exit directly above. As the slits were too narrow, the magical beasts from the outside world could not enter through them. The entrance above was too high. Hence, the only way for the magical beasts to enter the valley was through the entrance behind Xiao Yan and Xue Mian. Xiao Yan could not help but nod his head when he saw the unique terrain. This was a good place for a breakthrough. Not only could it ensure that one could absorb enough energy from the world, it could also reduce most of the trouble and prevent the breakthrough process from being affected. It had to be said that the two of them had found a good place. Unfortunately, the incident at the bottom of the sea had caused the magical beasts to become much more violent. As a result, they had noticed the change in energy here and caused trouble for the two of them. If Xiao Yan had not arrived in time, the two of them would have lost their lives. Sweeping his gaze over the valley, he saw a natural rock in the middle of the valley. It just so happened that the sunlight that shone in from all parts of the valley shone on it. At this moment, a young lady in a blue dress with an exquisite face was seated on the rock with her eyes tightly shut. As she breathed in and out, the energy gathered in the valley was constantly being absorbed and refined by her. At the same time, the aura within the young lady's body was rapidly increasing. From the looks of it, the young lady would be able to complete her breakthrough soon. Before this, it was likely that all the trouble during this period of time would be left to Xiao Yan and Bloodcrown to deal with. After giving his instructions, Bloodcrown found a place in the valley and began to refine the medicinal pill that Xiao Yan had given him earlier. On the other hand, Xiao Yan's body flashed, and he appeared at the top of the valley in the blink of an eye. He looked down at the environment outside the valley from above. At a glance, magical beasts of various sizes were quietly approaching from the distant mountain forest. Low roars continuously rang out, and these fellows seemed to be communicating with each other. Subsequently, when the countless magical beasts arrived at the bottom of the valley, they did not charge into the valley this time. Instead, they climbed up the walls of the valley and wildly charged towards the top of the valley. Their target was undoubtedly Xiao Yan. Very quickly, these huge magical beasts arrived around Xiao Yan. Their enormous bodies covered the entire periphery of the valley, forming a black mass. Other than these, there were still countless magical beasts charging over from the distant mountain forest. Without exception, their target was Xiao Yan, who was currently standing at the top of the valley. Countless magical beasts chased each other as they charged up the slope of the valley. Their invisible aura was enough to shock anyone. However, at this moment, Xiao Yan's face did not show the slightest trace of fear in the face of such a situation. Instead, it was cold. He held the huge ruler in his hand, and with a thought, a dense white flame immediately rose. He waved the huge ruler and smashed it down on the head of a magical beast that was pouncing towards him. Chapter 1036. Bang! As the ruler fell, a magical beast that was charging towards Xiao Yan was instantly killed. However, countless magical beasts were still crazily charging towards him from behind. The roars of the magical beasts reverberated endlessly, causing the valley below to tremble. It was unknown whether it was caused by the large number of magical beasts or the vibrations caused by the roars of the magical beasts. At this very moment, Xiao Yan's body was standing proudly at the top of the valley. His front, back, left, and right were surrounded by magical beasts. Fierce attacks were launched at Xiao Yan from all directions. Sharp fangs, claws, and Douqi energy flew out repeatedly. All of them shot explosively toward Xiao Yan, aiming to take his life. Xiao Yan's expression did not change in the face of this situation. He held the huge ruler in a reverse grip with one hand. At the same time that the huge ruler swept horizontally, his other hand violently swept across the tip of the ruler. A dense white flame immediately rose. It carried a ferocious aura as it abruptly swept in front of Xiao Yan. In an instant, the magical beasts that were pouncing towards Xiao Yan were all forced back. Almost at the same time, the moment the giant ruler swept horizontally, the hand that was holding the ruler's hilt suddenly released. Xiao Yan's figure also abruptly turned back. In an extremely strange posture, the moment the giant ruler was about to fall, his other hand suddenly grabbed the ruler's hilt. Surging dou qi immediately poured into the giant ruler, followed by another sweep. The magical beasts in front of and behind him were all swept away in the blink of an eye. However, just as Xiao Yan swept away the wave, a few more magical beasts charged towards him from all directions. Xiao Yan sent a few flying with his ruler. Immediately, his figure leaped and stepped on the head of a magical beast. He twisted his body and sent it flying with a kick. In just a few hours, Xiao Yan had consecutively sent more than 100 magical beasts flying. The number of magical beasts that he had killed was also more than 10. However, the surrounding magical beasts seemed to be endless as they continuously surged towards him. However, this kind of situation did not seem to wear down Xiao Yan's patience. Instead, it increased the fanatical fighting spirit in the latter's heart. Relying on the giant ruler in his hand, facing so many magical beasts, he used the most violent method to fight to his heart's content. This allowed him to completely display his strength. From a certain point of view, such a violent fighting method also had some benefits for Xiao Yan himself. Suddenly, Xiao Yan, who was originally fiercely colliding at the top of the valley, at the entrance of the valley, a magical beast actually attempted to step over the corpse of the previous magical beast and enter the valley. Immediately, Xiao Yan's expression changed slightly. He stepped on the magical beast's body and sent it flying. At the same time, his figure also swept into the air. He viciously waved the giant ruler in his hand. The giant ruler left his hand and immediately fell at lightning speed. The moment the magical beast was about to enter the valley, its body was forcefully pinned at the entrance of the valley. While killing it, it also blocked the only entrance to the valley. Immediately, countless magical beasts around Xiao Yan crazily surged towards him. Without a weapon, Xiao Yan caused these big guys to be less afraid of him. One by one, they revealed their sharp fangs and viciously bit towards Xiao Yan's body. However, they had underestimated the human in front of them. Force Elephant Technique, Golden Elephant Technique, activate. Soon after, a low cry was emitted from Xiao Yan's heart the moment he landed. Almost at the same time, the powerful physical strength hidden in Xiao Yan's body was completely released at this moment. A golden-colored barrier agglomerated on the surface of Xiao Yan's body. Regardless of how those magical beasts charged over, Xiao Yan only cared about waving his fists and attacking the magical beasts that were charging toward him head-on. Immediately, painful roars that were even more miserable than before were emitted from the pile of magical beasts. Compared to a moment ago, the current Xiao Yan seemed to be able to break through everything by relying on his pair of fists. Any attack would be swiftly toppled in an unstoppable manner under Xiao Yan's fist. Xue Mian widened his mouth as he stood within the valley. He lifted his head to look at Xiao Yan at the top. The shock that had originally been revealed in his eyes had already disappeared with the flow of time. Only his face remained stiff and distorted as though it was cramping. Very quickly, a day had passed. There were less than 2 days left from the 7 days that Xiao Xian had mentioned. In the small valley, Hai Ling Er's breakthrough process had yet to end. This also meant that Xiao Yan and Bloodcrown still had to wait here. At this moment, Xiao Yan, who was at the top of the deep valley, could not help but feel secretly worried. If this dragged on for too long, it would not be beneficial to them. With less than 2 days left, he was not confident that he could bring the two of them out of the underwater void realm. He could only say that if Hai Ling Er's breakthrough did not end, he could only use force to bring her away. He could not continue to stay here. Finally, at noon, the churning natural energy around Hai Ling Er, who had been in a breakthrough state, finally slowly calmed down. The aura within her body had also stabilized at the initial 9-star Do D level. The pair of pretty eyes that had been shut for over 10 days slowly opened. A pair of icy blue crystal eyes were immediately exposed in the air. The young lady slowly stood up. The long dress that she was wearing fluttered gently, revealing a pair of white jade-like slender beautiful legs. Her curvaceous figure was also fully displayed at this moment. Ling Er, you have broken through. Only when the young lady stood up did Bloodcrown recover from his absent-mindedness. He hurriedly ran to the front of the young lady and carefully helped her down the green stone platform with one hand. At the same time, he asked with a voice filled with concern. Hearing this, the young lady's pretty face reddened as she nodded. She immediately said, "Big brother Bloodcrown, thank you for protecting me during these few days. Otherwise, I don't know if I would be able to break through in peace. Ugh! Hearing this, Bloodcrown smiled awkwardly and scratched his head. After which, he said in a somewhat embarrassed manner, "Actually, not all of them. I was able to easily deal with those magical beasts a few days ago. However, since the day before yesterday, there have been an increasing number of magical beasts gathering here. I am no longer able to block them." Towards the end, Bloodcrown could not help but lower his head in self-blame. Seeing this, Hai-Ling involuntarily knit her brows in a somewhat uncertain manner. Since Bloodcrown had said that she was no longer able to block those magical beasts since the day before yesterday, what was going on for the next 1 or 2 days? It's that person. That human called Xiao Yan. He suddenly appeared the day before yesterday. With just him alone, he blocked all the magical beasts outside. Suddenly, Bloodcrown raised his head. He extended his hand and pointed to the highest point of the valley. Through the hole at that spot, the two of them could clearly see a human figure with a golden light lingering over his body. He was repeatedly waving his fist and sending the magical beasts around him flying with each punch. Sensing the gazes of the two people in the valley below, Xiao Yan also knew that Hai-Ling had completed her breakthrough. Now, it was finally time to leave. Xiao Yan descended and landed beside the two of them. He glanced at Hai-Ling, who had already exited her cultivation state. He let out a long sigh of relief and nodded. "You have broken through. Now, we should also leave this place." Roar! When Xiao Yan descended, the magical beasts outside also rushed in through the entrance above the valley and heavily surrounded the three of them. Immediately, Hai-Ling and Bloodcrown's minds tensed up. They faced the magical beasts around them and their expressions immediately became solemn. "Mr. Xiao Yan, it looks like we have to experience a fierce battle before we leave," Bloodcrown said in a low voice. With a thought, the dou qi in his body began to circulate rapidly. Hai-Ling also did the same. On the other hand, Xiao Yan frowned and shook his head. He sighed softly and said, "No, we don't have so much time to waste. We have to leave now." After speaking without waiting for Bloodcrown and Hai-Ling to ask any questions, Xiao Yan stretched out his hand and beckoned. The dark heavy buster sword outside the valley immediately flew back. It passed through the encirclement of the magical beasts and quickly returned to Xiao Yan's hand. After which, he flipped his hand and kept it in his storage ring. Immediately after, under the surprised gazes of the two people behind him, Xiao Yan raised his right hand. A strange dark energy light spot had unknowingly condensed in the palm of his right hand. "It's over." As these words were uttered, his palm fell and pressed heavily on the void. Great Heaven Creation Palm. Fight the Reincarnated Flame Emperor. Fight the Reincarnated Flame Emperor. Chapter 1037. In the blink of an eye, another half a day had passed. Now, there was only 1 day left before the 7-day deadline that Xiao Xian had mentioned. Xiao Yan's group of 3 had to reach the exit of the underwater void realm within a day and leave this place successfully. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Half a day's time did not allow the 3 of them to travel far. When Xiao Yan informed Xue Mian and Xue Mian about the situation of the baleen whale at the bottom of the sea, the expressions on their faces suddenly changed. It was unexpected that the situation of the void realm at the bottom of the sea had already reached such an extent. Speaking of which, all of this could be blamed on their sea clan. Their endless greed had finally paid the price for it. According to Bloodcrown's estimation, the 3 of them were at least a full day away from the exit of the underwater void realm. Even if the 3 of them could reach the exit of the underwater void realm in a day, they were destined to not be able to leave the underwater void realm. Now, there was not much time left for the 3 of them. Xiao Yan led Xue Mian and Xue Mian as they cut through all the obstacles along the way. The magical beasts that came to obstruct them were all finished off by Xiao Yan in one strike in the most violent manner. Despite this, the speed at which the 3 of them were moving forward was unknowingly slowed. "Damn it! We can't go on like this. We have to be faster." Xiao Yan could not help but curse after forcefully killing a magical beast in front of him with a punch. He turned his head to look at the countless magical beasts that were charging towards them again in the distance. Xiao Yan could not help but reveal a solemn expression. No matter how heroic he was, it was impossible for him to continue fighting without stopping. Furthermore, there was less than a day left before the deadline that Xiao Xian had mentioned. If they were delayed by the siege of these magical beasts, the 3 of them would really not have the chance to leave this place. Mr. Xiao Yan, what should we do? The Blood Crown knew that only by relying on Xiao Yan and the others would they have a chance at survival. Therefore, they had to rely on Xiao Yan. Hai Ling Air by the side also turned her eyes to Xiao Yan after Xue Jian opened his mouth. After seeing the shocking strength that Xiao Yan had displayed, she had already been subdued by his strength. Moreover, there was still Xue Jian by the side at this moment. Since even Xue Jian wanted to seek Xiao Yan's opinion, she would naturally not say anything more. After a little hesitation, Xiao Yan's mind moved, and the space in front of him suddenly distorted. In the blink of an eye, it turned into 2 dark tents. With a wave of his hand, the 2 tents turned into 2 black robes, which Xiao Yan handed to the 2. After the 2 of them put on the black robes, Xiao Yan immediately took out 2 elixirs from his storage ring and handed them to the 2 of them. These 2 are wind speed elixirs. They can temporarily increase your speed, and the black robes on your bodies can conceal your aura to ensure that you won't be discovered by those magical beasts. When those magical beasts rush over later, I will temporarily hold them back. The 2 of you will find the right time to leave this place quickly and rush to the exit of the underwater void realm as quickly as possible. What will you do if we leave? Hearing Xiao Yan's words, the Blood Crown frowned. He didn't dare to say that he was a person who wasn't afraid of death, but he definitely couldn't leave those who helped him in the lurch. The Blood Crown felt really bad about letting them leave just like that. Don't worry, after you leave this place, I will naturally follow you immediately. However, you must also make sure to conceal your aura as much as possible along the way. You must not have any conflicts with those magical beasts. Otherwise, everything will be too late. Nodding with a serious expression, before the Blood Crown could speak again, Xiao Yan's figure suddenly moved. The pitch-black dark heavy buster sword suddenly appeared in his hand. With a wave of the giant buster sword, the magical beasts that attacked the 3 of them were blown away. Violent explosions sounded one after another, and the faces of the Blood Crown and Hai Ling also became gloomy because of this. The 2 of them hesitated for a long time, and finally gritted their teeth. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the 2 of them quickly left the battlefield. Sensing the departure of the 2 of them, Xiao Yan, who was in the middle of the magical beasts, had a cold expression on his face. His extremely cold gaze quickly swept across the magical beasts around him. The giant buster sword in his hand trembled slightly, and suddenly, a white flame rose up. A powerful force crazily condensed in the giant buster sword, and a terrifying energy aura spread out from Xiao Yan's body. The surrounding magical beasts also let out a low roar. 7 layers. Sky. Breaking. Ruler. Spitting out the words one by one, Xiao Yan suddenly raised his head. Then, he lifted the dark heavy buster sword in his hand. Both of his hands held the handle of the buster sword tightly, and the giant buster sword in his hand suddenly swept out. A terrifying wave of flames immediately swept out, spanning 1,000 miles and sweeping between heaven and earth. 1 foot. 2 feet. After 7 feet, all the magical beasts within a 500-kilometer radius of Xiao Yan were turned into a pile of corpses in the blink of an eye. The merciless flame burned in this place. The mountain forest below was a sea of fire. The invisible space had completely collapsed. At this moment, the only person who still had life remaining in this place was Xiao Yan. At this moment, the latter was like a killing god, leaving no leeway and not giving any life. After doing all this, Xiao Yan once again kept the dark heavy buster sword. He was just about to charge in the direction that the Xue Mian duo had left in when his body involuntarily swayed. He actually nearly fell from the sky. After the repeated fierce battles, the dou qi within his body had been completely exhausted without him realizing it. The 7 feet earlier was already his final technique. If Xiao Yan was unable to recover his dou qi as soon as possible, it was likely that he would not even be able to use the sky extinction step, much less catch up with Xue Mian and Xue Yan. Who damn it! It actually had to happen at this time. The dou qi in his body was exhausted, causing Xiao Yan's face to involuntarily reveal a somewhat strained expression. He hurriedly consumed a couple of medicinal pills. Before the medicinal effect of the medicinal pills in his body dissipated, his body shook, and a faint layer of golden light agglomerated on the surface of Xiao Yan's body. Helplessly, the dou qi in his body was completely exhausted. The only thing that Xiao Yan could barely rely on was his remaining physical strength. Bang! His feet stomped heavily on the empty space. Immediately, the space under his feet became distorted. Xiao Yan's body also suddenly rushed forward. By relying on his powerful physical strength, the speed that Xiao Yan displayed at this moment could be considered extraordinary. However, if it was just this, it was likely that Xiao Yan would not be able to catch up to the two of them within a short period of time. While feeling a little helpless in his heart, Xiao Yan could only put in more effort to borrow the strength of his physical body to continue charging forward. At the same time, the medicinal strength of the 2 medicinal pills that he had swallowed was also being swiftly absorbed. Chapter 1038. Outside the empty realm, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon were waiting anxiously. Hai Zhantian stood in place, frowning. His hands under his sleeves were constantly opening and clenching. His eyes were fixed on the entrance of the empty realm, his heart full of worry. Behind him, the heaven-devouring dragon was also anxious. He kept pacing back and forth, his footsteps gradually becoming heavier until they reached Hai Zhantian's ears. "Kid, can't you be quiet? My heart feels like it's about to be crushed by you." After reprimanding in a low voice, the heaven-devouring dragon let out a long sigh and stopped beside Hai Zhantian. Behind them, the crowd couldn't help but look at each other when they saw the anxious expressions on the two people's faces. Their hearts also became nervous. On the other side, Hai Machin also came to Hai Zhantian's side. His eyes flickered slightly. He raised his hand and patted the latter's shoulder. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, I believe in that kid. With him, your granddaughter and the other kid will definitely be safe and sound." Hearing this, Hai Zhantian frowned and sighed. The heaven-devouring dragon hurriedly cupped his hands towards Hai Machin. Hai Machin waved his hand and let it go. However, at this moment, in addition to these people who were worried, there was another person who was much more nervous than them. That was Xiao Xian, whose body was completely transparent and his aura was extremely weak. Compared to the others, Xiao Xian was more aware of the situation in the empty realm at the bottom of the sea. After so many days of bitter struggle, his spiritual strength had long been overwhelmed. He had been forcibly holding on. His purpose was to wait for Xiao Yan's return. But now, his spiritual strength was far from enough to maintain the normal operation of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea. It wouldn't be long before the stable state of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea would be completely broken. At that time, Xiao Yan, who was in the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, would be in even more danger. At the same time, in the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, Xue Mian and Hai Linger were walking together. With Xiao Yan's black robe and the wind speed pill, the two of them were much faster. They didn't dare to say that they could achieve twice the result with half the effort, but they were not too far away from the exit of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea. All along the way, the two of them looked at the dilapidated mountains and lands below, and they couldn't help but reveal an expression of pity in their eyes. They never imagined that because of the interference of their sea tribe, this world would actually become like this. In the end, it was still their fault. On the other side, the dou qi within Xiao Yan's body was still gradually recovering under the effect of the medicinal pill. At the same time, Xiao Yan continued to use the strength of his physical body. And Xiao Xian's. Xiao Xue. As Xue Xian Xian of the realm was, Xian's of the realm. As Xian, Xue, Xian's Xian. Xue's. However, the result of this explosion was not satisfactory. No matter how much Xiao Yan squeezed out the strength of his physical body, the distance he flew forward each time was almost the same. The distance he flew was far from being able to make up for the energy he exhausted when he unleashed his strength. The result of this cycle would only slow down Xiao Yan's traveling speed. In addition to this, the other trouble was naturally the magical beasts wandering in the mountains. As soon as they saw Xiao Yan flying across the sky, they immediately rushed towards him like crazy. They had a violent feeling that they wanted to swallow him alive. In the face of these countless troublesome creatures, Xiao Yan had no other means except to kill them by force. However, this also increased the consumption of Xiao Yan's physical strength in another aspect. If this continued, Xiao Yan would probably die here before he reached the exit of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea. Rumble! Suddenly, the entire underwater empty realm began to shake intensely. A countless number of mountains collapsed, the river flowed in reverse, the mountains were overturned, and the forest was destroyed. Painful and terrified roars continued to reverberate in this world. The invisible empty space seemed to have been pressed by some kind of strength as it swiftly became distorted. Xiao Yan immediately sensed an invisible strength descend on his shoulder, causing his body, which was standing in the empty space, to involuntarily descend a little. With a thought, the do qi that had just recovered in his body immediately entered his meridians. His body shook slightly. Only then did he stabilize his body that was about to continue descending. At the same time, Xiao Yan's face also instantly became solemn. Looking up, in the distant sky, the invisible sky had collapsed. The entire world was gradually submerged in darkness. The endless void spread out like seawater, vowing to drown the entire empty realm at the bottom of the sea. Damn it, the empty realm at the bottom of the sea has already begun to collapse. Xiao Yan's expression sank. He involuntarily cursed quietly. The empty realm at the bottom of the sea had begun to collapse in advance. This meant that the so-called final day that was left for him would likely shrink greatly. If he did not leave this place as soon as possible, it was likely that even Xiao Yan would be drowned in this endless empty space. Almost at the same time, Xiao Xian, who was outside the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, also slowly dimmed due to the exhaustion of his spiritual strength. In the end, he turned into a milky white ball of light the size of a fist. His originally dense aura also became silent because of this. Not far away, Hai Machen's expression could not help but change slightly when he saw this scene. His body instantly flashed and he arrived beside the ball of light. He extended his hand and an invisible force wrapped around the ball of light, preventing it from being disturbed by the energy of the world outside. Hai Zhantian quickly went forward. Seeing that Xiao Xian had actually turned into such a state, his expression became even more anxious. Cold sweat unknowingly flowed down from his temples. His deep eyes stared fixedly at the entrance of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, not daring to shift his gaze away for even a moment. Without the support of his spiritual strength, the space within the empty realm at the bottom of the sea has probably already begun to collapse. In other words, the last day of the 7 days that Xiao Xian told Xiao Yan that day is probably even more tense than expected. Now, we can only hope that Xiao Yan has already found the two of them and is already in the passage at the entrance. At this moment, even Hai Machen could not help but feel a little shocked. The scene that had occurred at this moment really caused even him to feel surprised. However, he did not know just what kind of situation Xiao Yan's three-man group was currently facing. In the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, the entire world had already begun to collapse. Countless magical beasts fled in all directions. Xiao Yan and the other two also rushed towards the exit of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea without stopping. With the help of the things that Xiao Yan had given them, Xue Mian and Hai Ling finally arrived in front of the exit of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea ahead of time. When the two of them arrived, they could not help but have a joyful expression on their faces. However, when they arrived, the two of them were not in a hurry to enter the exit. Instead, they stopped and turned around to look in the direction they had come from, hoping to see traces of Xiao Yan. Unfortunately, the latter's figure did not appear in their field of vision for a long time. Seeing that the world around them had begun to collapse inch by inch, the two young people could not help but feel a surge of fear in their hearts. At the same time, they became even more worried for Xiao Yan. The latter had blocked the countless magical beasts by himself, and the two of them had taken the lead to escape without caring about the latter. This really made the two of them feel extremely guilty. At this moment, when they could not see Xiao Yan's figure again, the two of them were even unwilling to leave this place. Chapter 1039. Xue Mian held the delicate hand of the young lady within the underwater void realm. His brows were tightly knit as he stared in the direction they had come from. His heart was incomparably anxious as he waited. Rumble. Rumbling sounds repeatedly sounded in the sky. The invisible space distorted intensely before collapsing. Suddenly, numerous dark black thunderbolts shot out from the endless empty space. They carried a frightening aura that could destroy the world as they instantly destroyed a large area of the mountain forest below. A countless number of magical beasts were instantly killed by this thunderbolt. The surrounding mountain forest that had collapsed had already turned into a sea of fire. The entire underwater void realm had become like a purgatory at this moment. Xue Mian and Hai Ling, who was hiding behind him, were startled when they saw this scene. The young lady behind him involuntarily let out an exclamation. Perspiration appeared on Xue Mian's forehead. His heart was also extremely shocked. The strength of the thunderbolt was unimaginable. Once the thunderbolt targeted the two of them, it was likely that they would not even have the chance to dodge. Big brother Xue, Mr. Xiao Yan has yet to come out. The young lady's heart was filled with fear as she grabbed a corner of Xue Mian's black robe. Her heart was filled with worry as she timidly opened her mouth to speak. Relax, it's fine. Mr. Xiao Yan's strength is the strongest among all the elite Do Di that I have seen. Let's wait a little longer. He will definitely come out. Shui Mian clenched his teeth. He looked at the ground below, which had partially collapsed. His heart involuntarily sank. If Xiao Yan still did not come out, it was likely that they would have to enter the exit of the underwater void realm regardless of what happened. Another 15 minutes. If Mr. Xiao Yan does not come out within 15 minutes, we can only leave this place first. Shui Mian gently patted the young lady's shoulder as he comforted her. The latter obediently nodded her head when she heard this. She suppressed the fear in her heart and waited patiently. At the same time, deep within the underwater void realm, Xiao Yan was borrowing Do Qi while pressing his tired body. He forcefully maneuvered the strength within his muscles and shot forward time and time again. Xiao Yan's sweat kept pouring out, drenching his robe. Most of it fell into the endless abyss below. The endless land was collapsing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the land in front of Xiao Yan had completely collapsed. Numerous shocking thunderbolts continued to fall from the endless, dark black empty space, mercilessly killing the magical beasts that were fleeing in all directions. At a glance, it appeared as though they were cleaning up this world that had been contaminated by the outside world. Now that the laws had changed, there was no longer a need for the underwater void realm to exist. It was only a matter of time before it completely collapsed and disappeared. Seeing what was happening in front of him, Xiao Yan's heart could not help but tighten. He clenched his teeth and once again gathered all the strength in his body. He tried his best to move his body and rushed forward. However, it was also at this moment that a shockingly frightening thunderbolt suddenly fell from the endless empty space above Xiao Yan's head. Damn it! Xiao Yan's expression changed. He used all his strength to maneuver the Do Qi that he had just recovered. At the same time, the little bit of strength that he had gathered all over his body also erupted at this moment. His body leaned to the side and he hurriedly dodged to one side. Rumble! The thunderbolt descended and violently smashed onto Xiao Yan's body. A frightening destructive strength spread from within it. One could even clearly see that the endless empty space, which had already collapsed, had become distorted. In the end, Xiao Yan was extremely lucky and brushed past the edge of the bolt of lightning. The incomparable bolt of lightning was thus submerged in the endless void. Despite this, a little of the frightening lightning strength contained within the bolt of lightning still entered Xiao Yan's body. It swiftly spread through his limbs and bones. Immediately, a wave of numbness was transmitted into Xiao Yan's mind. His entire body also fell uncontrollably. Rumble! That bolt of lightning appeared to be unwilling to give up after missing its attack. However, this time around, Xiao Yan's body was completely out of his control. He could only watch as the bolt of lightning smashed down on his body. Damn it! Move! Quickly move! His tired body was out of control. Xiao Yan let out a wild roar in his mind. The frightening bolt of lightning swiftly descended. In the blink of an eye, it was merely 10 feet away from his body. At such a distance, even an ordinary 9-star Do Di would have difficulty dodging such a frightening bolt of lightning, much less the currently exhausted Xiao Yan. Soon after, the bolt of lightning that was filled with a destructive force arrived in front of Xiao Yan. It was merely an inch away from the latter's body. In an instant, the hair all over Xiao Yan's body stood up. The lightning strength had already flowed into Xiao Yan's body through the invisible void. It entered his muscles and bones and a piercing pain was immediately transmitted. Bang! The bolt of lightning descended and violently passed through the void. It once again entered the endless void. Xiao Yan's body could be said to have miraculously dodged this fatal attack once again. In the void, Xiao Yan resentfully watched the frightening bolt of lightning that entered the endless void. He involuntarily rejoiced in his heart. He did not expect that he would actually be able to profit from a disaster under such a situation. He parted his mouth. It was unknown whether it was because of the pain on his body or the joy in his heart. Immediately, his gaze turned around and landed on his body. Xiao Yan glanced at his shoulder. A thread of tiny thunderbolt leaped out from under his muscles. After which, it disappeared. However, the thing that really caused Xiao Yan to be happy was the pale blue Wei Ran illusionary figure that had agglomerated and formed behind him. With a stimulation of the lightning strength, Xiao Yan had stimulated the last hidden strength in his body. He did not expect that under his full strength, Xiao Yan would accidentally condense the blue virtual image behind him. And this was the third art of the 4 sacred manifestation art, The wing elephant art. It was also the condensation of the wing elephant art that allowed Xiao Yan to dodge the bolt of lightning. Phew! Xiao Yan involuntarily exhaled a long breath of air as he sensed the weak strength within his body. He lifted his gaze and looked at the thunderbolt that had once again agglomerated its strength and came crashing down. His hands abruptly tightened and his body trembled. With the help of the wing elephant skill, his body instantly disappeared. The thunderbolt that was following close behind once again missed. As for Xiao Yan, he did not stop at all. Regardless of the pursuit of the bolt of lightning, before the strength in his body dissipated again, he left this area far away. At the same time, Xue Mian and Hai Linger, who were at the exit of the underwater void realm, sighed with heavy expressions. After confirming that Xiao Yan had not come out, they slowly turned around. After a moment of hesitation, they lifted their feet and entered the passage. Chapter 1040. Outside the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon stood together in front of the entrance of the empty realm, waiting anxiously. Bean-sized beads of sweat were constantly dripping down, and their hearts were almost in their throats. Time passed bit by bit. Everyone present knew that the empty realm at the bottom of the sea was difficult to preserve. Now, the complete collapse of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea was just around the corner. However, the two elders of the clan, as well as Xiao Yan, who went to rescue the people, had not come out yet. This made everyone secretly break out in cold sweat for the three of them. Hai Machen's eyes stared at the entrance of the void realm at the bottom of the sea. Although his face still maintained a calm expression, his heart was incomparably anxious. Even though he had endless confidence in Xiao Yan, he did not dare to be certain that Xiao Yan would be able to exit the void realm at this moment. Buzz buzz buzz. Suddenly, the originally calm entrance of the empty realm at the bottom of the sea suddenly trembled. Light flickered, and then, two figures in black robes flashed out together. In an instant, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon, who had been staring at the entrance, immediately looked at the two people. With their powerful cultivation, they instantly recognized the two people. Ling Er. Xue Wang. The two people said in unison, and the ecstasy in their voices was needless to say. In an instant, the huge stone hanging in their hearts finally fell to the ground. The two moved together and rushed forward, each of them tightly hugging the other person in their arms. At the same time, the two elders also clearly saw the man and woman holding each other's hands tightly. They had no time to care, and only cared about the ecstasy in their hearts. Their eyes were filled with hot tears, and they almost rolled down. The two young people were also shocked by the actions of the two elders. Immediately, when they recovered, the girl also saw the blue-haired middle-aged man behind Hai Zhantian, and only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. It was her father. As a father, the latter's feelings for his daughter were naturally not less than her grandfather. However, as the leader of the clan, he had to put the clan first. In front of the clan, he always had to maintain his dignity. Until now, when he saw that his daughter was fine, the father couldn't help but tear up. It was not until a long while later that Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon let go of the child in their arms, but they still looked at the young man and the girl with a smile on their faces. At this moment, Hai Machen stepped forward, looked at Xue Wang, and asked, "Where's Xiao Yan? Shouldn't he be with you?" Noticing the black robes on the two, Hai Machen immediately knew that Xiao Yan had been with them. However, at this moment, Xue Wang and Hai Ling had successfully escaped from the underwater void realm, and Xiao Yan's whereabouts were unknown. This could not help but increase the worry in Hai Machen's heart. As soon as these words came out, the people present suddenly recovered. Indeed, they were happy about the return of Xue Wang and Hai Ling, but they seemed to have forgotten about Xiao Yan, who had entered the underwater void realm to rescue them. At this moment, they still had no idea about the situation of the latter. The only thing they knew was that Xiao Yan was still in the underwater void realm, and his situation was definitely not good. Hearing Hai Machen's words, Xue Wang and Hai Linger's faces, which had just revealed a joyful expression because of their escape, immediately darkened again. The man and woman buried their heads, and the expression on their faces was particularly solemn. Then, Xue Wang recounted what happened in the underwater void realm, including how Xiao Yan found them and blocked the demonic beasts for them in detail. Hearing Xue Wang's words, the faces of the people present changed slightly. While they were moved by Xiao Yan's actions, they also felt a sense of worry about the latter's current situation. That kid. He'll be fine, right? Hai Zhantian hesitantly turned his gaze to Hai Machin. The expression on his face also carried a trace of guilt as the words were spat out from his mouth. After all, the reason why Xiao Yan had entered the empty realm at the bottom of the sea was because of him. Otherwise, Xiao Yan would not have encountered such danger. Sigh. Now even I can't be sure. I can only hope that he can turn the danger into safety. He has come such a long way. This time, I don't want him to fall just like that. Letting out a long sigh, even Hai Machin felt somewhat helpless. Hai Zhantian was speechless. The boulder that had just been lifted from his heart was now hanging high up in the air. At the same time, the atmosphere in the arena had become inexplicably heavy once again. In fact, it was even heavier than before. Shui Wang came to the side of the young girl. The two looked at each other with worry in their eyes. The young girl frowned slightly. Her slender jade-like hand grabbed the corner of her black robe. She stared at the entrance of the underwater void realm, waiting with rapt attention. Rumble! Suddenly, the entrance of the underwater void realm trembled violently. A huge rumbling sound resounded continuously from the bottom of the sea. A huge suction force gushed out from the entrance. Fortunately, the seawater in this area was forcibly emptied by Hai Zhantian, causing the place where everyone was standing to be a huge open space. Therefore, there was no seawater pouring into the underwater void realm. However, the sudden change in the underwater void realm caused everyone's expression to change drastically, especially Hai Machin and Hai Zhantian. Their hands that were hidden under their sleeves suddenly clenched tightly. Cold sweat immediately appeared on their foreheads. Even their hearts could not help but tremble. Xiao Yan, you must come out. Hai Machin narrowed his eyes and stared at the entrance of the underwater void realm. He suppressed the emotions in his heart and waited anxiously. At the same time, in the underwater void realm, after a difficult struggle, Xiao Yan finally entered the exit of the underwater void realm. However, almost at the same time, the entire underwater void realm had completely collapsed. The exit of the underwater void realm was also collapsing at an extremely fast speed. It was about to catch up with Xiao Yan in front of it. Once the passage completely collapsed before Xiao Yan could leave, the latter would no longer have a chance to escape. If he fell into the endless void, his fate would be unpredictable. Soon, at the end of Xiao Yan's line of sight, he could see a blue light curtain. That was the exit of the underwater void realm. As long as he passed through it, everything that happened behind him would have nothing to do with Xiao Yan. However, at this moment, the passage in front of Xiao Yan suddenly began to collapse. At the same time, the glow on the light curtain, which was still at the edge of his sight, gradually dimmed. After which, the large exit swiftly shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Once it completely disappeared, Xiao Yan would no longer be able to leave this place. In the outside world, Hai Machin and the others saw the rapidly shrinking entrance of the underwater void realm in front of them. The emotions in their hearts became even more intense. Everyone was as anxious as ants on a hot pan. While their hearts were filled with anticipation, their faces could not help but reveal a desolate expression. When the entrance of the underwater void realm turned into a palm-sized circle of light and then completely disappeared, everyone present could not help but lower their heads. The last bit of hope in their hearts was completely obliterated. However, almost at the same time, the black robe on Shuemian's body and the black robe in Hai Linger's hand quietly disappeared. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 1041. Outside the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, when the crowd saw that the entrance had completely disappeared, the only hope in their hearts was completely shattered. They let out a long sigh, their hearts filled with sorrow. They did not expect that although Xiao Yan had saved all the younger generation of the Sea Clan, in the end, he would lose his life. Once Xiao Yan woke up, the two Sea Clans would not be able to give him an explanation. At this moment, Hai Machin was still staring unwillingly at the place where the empty realm had disappeared. He did not believe that with Xiao Yan's means, he would die just like that. He absolutely did not believe it. Buzz! However, at this moment, after the empty realm at the bottom of the sea disappeared, a black light spot suddenly appeared at the place where it originally stood and quickly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it had turned into a huge black tent that was as tall as a person. That is. Seeing the black tent, Hai Machin's face suddenly changed. At the same time, the few people beside him also discovered the sudden change in the scene. The few of them immediately looked over. Soon after, a miserable figure suddenly rushed out from the black tent. His body swayed a couple of times before he managed to stabilize himself in the air. He lifted his head and saw the group of people staring at him in shock. He parted his mouth and smiled. Fortunately, I did not disappoint. I am back. Just as he finished speaking, his body suddenly went limp and fell from the sky. Hai Zhan Tian's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick. He hurriedly rushed forward to catch him. After a quick check, he turned his head and nodded at the worried Hai Mo Chen. He said, Hai Mo Chen, Hai Mo Chen. It's okay. He just fainted because he was too weak. As soon as these words came out, Hai Mo Chen's heart relaxed. At the same time, a relieved smile appeared on the faces of everyone present. Shui Crown and Hai Ling looked at each other and smiled affectionately. Shui Crown reached out and held the girl's soft and boneless hand in his palm, never letting go. On the side, the two fathers noticed this scene, but they looked at each other and nodded with a smile. They did not say anything. When Xiao Yan woke up once again, he realized that he was in a dormitory. He stood up and looked around. This dormitory was filled with decorations that were unique to the sea. Sea reefs and corals were everywhere. Even the furniture was the same. There was no one else in the room. The environment was also extremely quiet. When Xiao Yan spread his spiritual strength outwards, the scene of a large, strangely shaped building immediately surfaced in his mind. At the same time, he sensed that he was currently located in the deep sea. The area that Xiao Yan was currently in was different from other places. Although he was in the deep sea, he was in another area that was opened up. It was not covered by the sea, and it was more like a human land. Through some of the landmark buildings, it was not difficult to tell that Xiao Yan should be in the sea shark tribe. Moreover, his position seemed to be near the center of the entire tribe. When his spiritual power spread out, he was shocked by the size of the sea tribe. In this vast underwater world, countless buildings spread out in all directions. Even with Xiao Yan's spiritual power, he was still unable to see the end of these buildings. One could imagine the size of the sea shark tribe. One could see a large part of the big picture. After recovering, Xiao Yan also realized that the dou qi in his body had completely recovered. Even some of the injuries on his body had disappeared. At this moment, Xiao Yan's condition had already recovered to its peak. Xiao Yan could not help but let out a long sigh as he sensed the abundant strength in his body. This kind of feeling of having strength was much better. When he recalled everything that he had encountered in the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, that kind of weak feeling from inside out really caused him to have a lingering fear. In the end, if he had not used all his strength to agglomerate the great way of the void and used it to escape from that place of death, it was likely that Xiao Yan would have been swallowed by the endless darkness. Withdrawing his thoughts, Xiao Yan suddenly had a thought. Soon after, a pale blue virtual image swiftly rose from behind him. Fortunately, Xiao Yan controlled it and it did not touch the roof. Otherwise, this dormitory would have been destroyed by Xiao Yan. Letting out a soft breath, Xiao Yan turned around to look at the pale blue virtual image that had been agglomerated behind him. A smile involuntarily surfaced on the corner of his mouth. The wing elephant skill, the third skill of the four saint manifestation skill. If he could successfully practice it, he could attempt to agglomerate the final skill, the giant elephant skill. Back then, according to the description of the four saint manifestation skill, if he could master these four skills through a comprehensive study, the might of the giant elephant skill would even be comparable to an E-class dou skill. This kind of temptation was something that even Xiao Yan could not help but be moved by. Of course, the current him was still very far away from that step. Let's not talk about when he would be able to agglomerate the giant elephant skill. Just the current Xiao Yan was far from being able to unleash the strength of an E-class dou skill. However, it was also because of this that from a certain point of view, this also gave Xiao Yan a certain amount of motivation. With a thought, the virtual image behind him disappeared. After musing for a moment, Xiao Yan's mind looked inside and came to his mind. At this moment, a blue-colored energy light cluster was slowly floating in his mind. This was the fragment of the flame mantra that Hai Mo Chen had given him. Now, Xiao Yan planned to use this opportunity to refine it. This could be considered as resolving one of the concerns in his heart. As soon as he thought of doing it, the heavenly flame within the vortex in his body immediately surged upward and swiftly entered his mind. Under Xiao Yan's control, it turned into a flame medicinal cauldron that swiftly wrapped around the blue-colored energy light cluster in front of him. Immediately, he began to refine it without any hesitation. The refining process this time around was much simpler and faster. With Xiao Yan's current cultivation, refining this fragment of the flame mantra did not have any difficulty. In less than 2 hours, the flame mantra fragment was successfully refined. At the same time, the flame mantra qi method within Xiao Yan's body also involuntarily began to circulate. Immediately, a wild and ferocious suction force surged out from within Xiao Yan's body. The energy within the entire dormitory, as well as the outside world, was attracted by this special suction force and involuntarily gathered toward Xiao Yan. Feeling the strange state of the energy in the surrounding air, Xiao Yan involuntarily raised his eyebrows. From the looks of it, the refining of the flame mantra had also triggered the qi within his body. Perhaps, he could even use this opportunity to break through to an 8-star Do D. As he thought of this, Xiao Yan immediately parted his mouth and smiled. He swiftly sat cross-legged and entered into a training state. He began to concentrate on absorbing and refining the natural energy. What's going on? The sudden change immediately alerted the patrolling Sea Clan members in the vicinity. Immediately, quite a number of people gathered towards Xiao Yan's location from all directions. However, just as they appeared in the air above Xiao Yan's dormitory, 4 human figures suddenly appeared out of thin air in a ghost-like manner. They waved their hands and stopped the Sea Clan soldiers who were about to step forward to investigate. When the crowd saw this, they respectfully bowed to the 4 of them. Then, with suspicious gazes, they all retreated. In the air, Hai Zhantian and Hai Machin by the side exchanged glances. The latter smiled slightly and said, "Looks like he has refined that portion of the flame mantra qi method. Moreover, from the looks of his current posture, it seems that he wants to use this opportunity to break through." By the side, the heaven-devouring dragon and the tribe leader of the sea shark tribe involuntarily raised their eyebrows when they heard this. They recalled the frightening fighting strength that Xiao Yan had displayed in front of them earlier. When he was a 7-star Do D, he was already able to easily suppress a 9-star Do D expert. If the latter's cultivation was to advance another level, just how frightening would his fighting strength be? Thinking of this, even with the status of these 2 people, they could not help but gently inhale a breath of cool air. At the same time, the favorable impression they had of Xiao Yan in their hearts also swiftly rose. The favor of saving their lives was enough to cause them to be a little more courteous to Xiao Yan. However, if it was related to the latter's future potential, they had no choice but to treat him seriously. Do Pa Reincarnated Flame Emperor. Do Pa Reincarnated Flame Emperor. Chapter 1042. In the void, the patriarch of the Sea Shark clan, who had regained his senses, immediately looked at Hai Zhantian in front of him and hurriedly said respectfully, "Father, I suggest that you immediately pass the order to our Sea Shark clan. From now on, Mr. Xiao Yan is a distinguished guest." On the side, Sky-Devouring Dragon raised his eyebrows when he heard this. Indeed, a simple good impression couldn't win people's hearts. Only the most practical action was the most effective way to win people over. However, when the former's voice just reached Hai Zhantian's ears, the latter curled his lips and said in a deep voice, "By the time you think of this step, the entire Sea Clan has already known in advance. The old me has already informed the first elders of the 2 large sea clans and asked them to pass down the order. From today onwards, Xiao Yan will be the joint honorary elder of our 2 large sea clans. Other than the clan head and the elder in charge, everyone else must greet him when they meet. You still dare to call him a VIP? Humph, Xiao Hai, you have underestimated him." The low words immediately made Hai Shou lower his head in shame. At the same time, even Sky-Devouring Dragon couldn't help but be startled. He didn't expect that Hai Zhantian's order had already been passed to the 2 sea clans. As the patriarch, he didn't know until now. Subsequently, the 4 of them quieted down. Under the lead of Hai Machin, they landed in the courtyard where Xiao Yan was. They sat in the courtyard and waited for Xiao Yan quietly. Soon after, the young couple, Xue Mian and Hai Linger, also arrived. In the blink of an eye, it was already 3 days later. In the dormitory, Xiao Yan's eyes, which had been closed for 3 days, slowly opened at this moment. The moment his eyes opened, there was a flash of white flame in his dark eyes. At the same time, the aura in Xiao Yan's body completely stabilized. Phew! Xiao Yan let out a long breath of turbid air that had been suppressed in his chest. He carefully sensed the strength in his body that was many times stronger than it was 3 days ago. A smile involuntarily appeared on his face. The breakthrough this time around was as smooth as water flowing when the conditions were right. From the circulation of the Qi method, to the absorption and refinement of the natural energy, the expansion of the vortex space, and the strengthening of the overall quality of his body, all aspects appeared to be extremely smooth. This was also due to Xiao Yan's continuous fighting during these few months. The continuous exhaustion of his body and the accumulation of strength caused everything to be so smooth and easy. Sure enough, fighting was the best way to improve the speed of cultivation. After recovering, Xiao Yan got up and washed his face. He walked out of the room. At this moment, a couple of figures were standing in the courtyard outside of the room. They were seated beside a stone table in the middle of the courtyard. Noticing that Xiao Yan had left, the gazes of the few people present were also thrown over. Seeing the group of people in front of him, Xiao Yan's figure, which had just stepped out of the door, couldn't help but slightly pause. He was slightly stunned as he looked at the people in front of him. After a long while, Xiao Yan dryly coughed twice and hurriedly went out. He respectfully cupped his fists towards the few people and said, "This junior has made the seniors wait for a long time. Ha ha ha, there's no need to wait. We originally wanted to see how your body was doing, but coincidentally saw that you were breaking through. Since we were bored, we might as well sit here and wait for you." The few of them stood up and walked towards Xiao Yan. They looked at each other, then Haimachin indifferently laughed out loud. The rest of the people beside him also smiled and nodded their heads. Soon after, Haimachin smiled and opened his mouth to ask, "How is it? After refining the remnant scroll of the flame mantra, your cultivation has also broken through." "Yes, I have already broken through to the 8th star. It can be considered an unexpected surprise." When these words were spoken, Haimachin and the other 3 experts from the Sea clan present were not surprised. However, the expressions of Xue Mian and Hailing Air behind them instantly became extremely shocked. This was especially the case for Xue Mian. His face was stunned as he looked at Xiao Yan. His eyes were filled with disbelief. "Xiao Yan, Elder Xiao Yan, you said that you have broken through to the 8th star? How is this possible? You had clearly relied on your own strength to defeat so many Do D-class magical beasts in the empty realm at the bottom of the sea. However, how is it possible that your cultivation is only that of an 8-star Do D?" Xue Mian's words were not only the thoughts of Xue Mian alone. There were even countless people from the entire Sea clan who held such thoughts. No one could believe that a 7-star Do D would be able to unleash a strength that even a 9-star Do D would be afraid to avoid. Unfortunately, after the matter of Xiao Yan defeating the people from the Yuan mansion with one punch spread, the voices of doubt within the entire Sea clan gradually died down. This was especially so after the upper echelons of the Sea clan tacitly agreed that this matter had happened. All the younger generation of the Sea clan no longer doubted it. However, Xue Mian and Hailing Air, who had just escaped from the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, were naturally unaware of this. However, they clearly understood that Xiao Yan in front of them possessed an extremely frightening fighting strength. Based on their evaluation in their hearts, Xiao Yan's strength was definitely the strongest below the origin transformation realm. However, they had never imagined that Xiao Yan's true cultivation was not even a 9-star Do D. "Cuckoo, I'm afraid that this matter is a long story. However, Brother Xue Mian, why do you address me as an elder?" Xiao Yan laughed faintly. He did not speak any further on this topic. His tone changed as he noticed a detail in Xue Mian's words. "Cuckoo, let me explain this." After which, Haimachin smiled and explained the reason behind this to Xiao Yan. The latter pondered for a moment in his heart when he heard this and immediately understood Hai Zhantian's intention. While he felt that it was funny in his heart, Xiao Yan also accepted it with a grateful smile. What a joke. It would be a lie if he said that he was not tempted by the joint title of elder of the 2 large Sea clan. Even if it was someone else, forget about a Do D like him, it was likely that even an expert at the Origin King class would be tempted. Soon after, Xiao Yan seemed to have thought of something. His eyebrows twitched as he hurriedly looked at Haimachin and asked with a frown, "Elder, may I know how the current situation of my ancestor is?" Seeing the worried expression on Xiao Yan's face, Haimachin smiled faintly and said, "In order to support the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, your ancestor finally exhausted his spiritual strength and has temporarily entered a deep slumber." Xiao Yan's expression immediately changed when these words were said. Soon after, Haimachin continued to speak. "Fortunately, with the enormous resources of the Sea clan, I have selected a few medicinal ingredients that can help him recover his spiritual strength. After refining them, he is currently slowly absorbing them. I believe that he will wake up soon. Moreover, the recovery speed of his spiritual strength will likely shock you when that time comes. As Hai Machin spoke, he also handed a milky white ring to Xiao Yan. Hai Machin's spiritual origin was within it. The corners of Hai Machin's and the heaven-devouring dragon's mouths involuntarily twitched when they heard Hai Machin's words. That was natural. In order to help Xiao Xian recover his spiritual strength, Hai Machin had unceremoniously plundered all the medicinal ingredients that could help with spiritual strength from the two large sea clan. Some of the medicinal ingredients could be said to be unique. Even they could not bear to part with them. Who would have thought that they would end up benefiting Xiao Xian? Hearing Hai Machin's words, Xiao Yan probed the situation within the ring in his hand. He sensed the incomparably large spiritual strength and involuntarily felt a shock. Adding this to the pained expressions of the two clan heads, he immediately came to a realization in his heart. Hai Machin had robbed the entire sea clan for him. Even with Xiao Yan's temperament, he could not help but gulp when he thought of that, as if he was afraid that the two of them would seek him out in the future. On the other hand, Hai Machin and Hai Machin did not seem to care at all. When Xiao Yan withdrew his thoughts, Hai Machin hesitated slightly before looking at him with a smile again. Little guy, since your ancestor is fine now, and you've gotten another surprise, why don't I give you another surprise? Since there are so many good things, I'll give you another surprise. As he spoke, Hai Machin extended his hand. Under Xiao Yan's curious gaze, a deep blue flame suddenly rose with a poof. It was the Sea Heart Flame. Chapter 1043. Sea Heart Flame. Xiao Yan's expression immediately solidified when he saw the blue-colored flame slowly rising from Hai Mo Chen's hand. His mouth involuntarily let out an exclamation. His ultimate goal in coming to the North Sea was the Sea Heart Flame. He didn't expect that Hai Machin would take the initiative to deliver the Sea Heart Flame to him before he could even open his mouth. Haha, since I'll have to give it to you sooner or later, I won't trouble you. I've lived in the North Sea for 1,000 years, and I really don't want to leave this place. This sea is where my everything depends on. Just like you said, I really can't let go of Beihai College, so I plan to give the Sea Heart Flame to you before you leave. Hearing Hai Machin's words, the people around him were stunned. The two patriarchs looked at each other, and finally looked at Hai Zhantian. They were very clear about the relationship between the two people in front of them. It could be said that Jiao Jiao and Meng Meng were inseparable. Hai Zhantian found it very difficult to accept that Hai Machin wanted to leave, but just as Hai Machin explained to him, all of this was his responsibility. Life had to be faced with many separations, but the meaning was different. Xiao Yan fell silent for a moment after hearing Hai Machin's words. He was naturally happy to be able to obtain the Sea Heart Flame, but at the same time, he couldn't help but feel a deep sense of regret and self-blame for the friendship between the two old men. If it weren't for his appearance, the two old men would have been able to accompany each other as before. Haha, okay, it's no big deal. I've made up my mind. Little guy, you should make some preparations before refining the heavenly flame during this period of time. I know that if I let you refine it now, you won't be able to start in a hurry. First, find a place to refine it at the bottom of the sea. Seeing the expressions on everyone's faces, Hai Machin smiled and looked at the silent Hai Zhantian beside him. He patted the latter's shoulder and said, Old man, in the future, my Beihai College will have to rely on you. I've already sent the news back. From now on, you'll be the vice dean of Beihai College. If there's any big matter in the college, I'll have to rely on you. You're leaving, but you're leaving such a big mess to me. Why do you want me to be the vice dean? Dean? Hai Zhantian furrowed his brows, a look of disgust appearing on his fleshy face. Hai Mo Chen, on the other hand, grinned and laughed heartily. Of course it's still me, ha ha ha. Hai Zhantian fell silent. Then, Hai Machin once again looked at Xiao Yan and said, Little guy, remember, the place to refine the heavenly flame must first be some deep sea or deep abyss. That will more or less have a suppressive effect on the heavenly flame. Moreover, the temperature of the deep sea will also decrease. This will more or less help you in refining the heavenly flame. As for the medicinal herbs and pills needed in the process, I think that as an alchemist, you don't need me to solve this problem for you. Hearing this, Xiao Yan nodded. He had also thought of this point. Refining the heavenly flame at the bottom of the sea was a unique refining environment. And with Xiao Yan's temperament, to refine the heavenly flame, he must find an excellent place. However, When the people behind him heard Hai Machin say that Xiao Yan was actually an alchemist, their originally calm faces once again revealed a shocked expression. It was unexpected that the Xiao Yan in front of him would actually be an alchemist while possessing such a frightening fighting strength that defied the heavens. This identity was like a heavy bomb that immediately exploded in the hearts of these people. But soon, when Hai Shou and the heaven-devouring dragon came back to their senses, the heaven-devouring dragon took a step forward without hesitation. He faced Xiao Yan and smiled. If you need a deep abyss, then go to my sea serpent clan. The hidden dragon abyss in the holy altar of my sea serpent clan is the deepest abyss in the entire North Sea. In addition, it is also the place where my clan worships all year round. It contains a large amount of Yin Qi in my clan's bloodline. It should be the best place to refine the heavenly flame. Hearing this, Hai Machin and Hai Zhantian immediately nodded. They agreed with this point. On the other hand, Hai Shou looked at the heaven-devouring dragon with some hesitation and said, "But the hidden dragon abyss is the holy altar of the Sea Serpent clan after all. For countless years, there has been no precedent of outsiders being able to enter. If we do this, won't those old fellows of the Sea Serpent clan?" "Ha ha ha, brother Hai, you naturally don't have to worry about this. Xiao Yan is now the great hero of my sea clan. Everyone is grateful to him in their hearts. Moreover, have you forgotten that Xiao Yan is now the joint elder of both our clans? How can he be counted as an outsider? In my opinion, even without this identity, those old fellows won't object either." The heaven-devouring flood dragon laughed out loud. The hearts of the few people present relaxed one after another. After which, Hai Machin looked at Xiao Yan and said, "Although the location has been chosen, why don't you go and take a look yourself? After all, the final decision is still in your hands. It's up to you to decide whether it's suitable or not." Xiao Yan nodded when he heard that. Hai Machin was right. Although the elders present all agreed that the hidden dragon abyss was suitable, it was only their subjective opinion after all. The final decision was still up to Xiao Yan himself. "Then why don't Xiao Yan come with me and take a look first?" The heaven-devouring dragon nodded in agreement. After all, they were outsiders when it came to refining heavenly flames. There were many things that they could not decide just because they wanted to. Afterwards, Xiao Yan followed the heaven-devouring dragon and left the Sea Shark clan's residence first. They passed through the water and quickly rushed to the Sea Serpent clan's residence. As for Hai Machin and the others, they stayed behind for the time being. Soon, under the guidance of the heaven-devouring dragon, the two of them arrived at the Sea Serpent clan's residence. At a glance, although the type of buildings here was slightly different from the Sea Shark clans, the overall scale also made Xiao Yan feel emotional. With the heaven-devouring dragon leading the way, the two of them quickly arrived at a huge stone platform somewhere in the Sea Serpent clan's residence. The couple of guards from the Sea Serpent tribe, who were standing at the edge of the stone platform, hurriedly bowed respectfully when the two of them appeared. When their eyes noticed Xiao Yan, they rotated their eyes and immediately guessed the latter's identity. On top of the shock in their hearts, they did not dare to slight Xiao Yan as they bowed and greeted him. Xiao Yan nodded with a smile. After that, his gaze fell on the huge stone platform in front of him. The entire stone platform was formed by layers of high steps, like a pyramid without a tip. In the middle of it, there was a huge circular hole that led straight to the bottom of the sea. Due to its depth, the hole looked extremely deep and dark at a glance. With just a glance, one could not help but feel a chill run down one's spine. Before Xiao Yan could approach the entrance of the cave, he sensed a deep chill that was transmitted from the bottom of the cave from a great distance. This kind of chill caused him to feel a chill on his back, even though he had the protection of the heavenly flame. This kind of chill not only penetrated one's bones but also caused one's soul to tremble. According to the heaven-devouring dragon, this hole was the place that Xiao Yan borrowed to refine heavenly flames, the hidden dragon abyss. The Reincarnated Flame Emperor. The Reincarnated Flame Emperor. Chapter 1044. As he felt the bone-chilling chill coming from the cave, Xiao Yan was delighted. That's right, this was exactly what he needed. "Haha, how is it? Are you satisfied?" The heaven-devouring flood dragon understood in his heart when he saw the joyous expression on Xiao Yan's face. "Not bad. This hidden dragon abyss is indeed worthy of being the sacred altar of the Sea Serpent tribe. Just the outer area is already so cold. If I go deeper, the cold will definitely be even more intense. Perhaps it will be much easier for me to refine the heavenly flame." Xiao Yan smiled with satisfaction. The hidden dragon abyss was simply a sacred place to refine the heavenly flame. It could not be more suitable. All right, since you are satisfied, I can rest assured. Wait here for a moment. I will go and inform a few old fellows in the tribe. This will prevent them from saying that I, the tribe leader, did not inform them in advance. Hearing this, Xiao Yan nodded his head in understanding. This kind of relationship within the clan was indeed very troublesome. Even if the clan leader made a decision, there were many things that needed to be agreed upon by the elders. Moreover, it was like the sacred altar within the clan. Very quickly, the heaven-devouring dragon left this place, and Xiao Yan slowly walked to the front of the hidden dragon abyss. As Xiao Yan approached, the originally pitch-black hidden dragon abyss suddenly underwent some changes. In the pitch-black underwater cave, specks of blue light were actually reflected. The light gradually became clearer. When Xiao Yan arrived at the edge of the hidden dragon abyss, the entire cave was actually filled with bright blue light. Even though the cave was still deep and bottomless, it was eye-catching. Even some of the grooves in the cave were similarly reflecting the gorgeous light. Xiao Yan's heart involuntarily felt surprised when he sensed this. His body took a couple of steps back and the light in front of his eyes dimmed. At this moment, he finally understood in his heart. It seemed that this hidden dragon abyss had a special design that allowed one to see the light within it only when one approached it. The kind of darkness that one could see in the distance was also a kind of protective method of the sea serpent tribe. After all, no one would be willing to touch something that would cause fear at first sight. However, just as Xiao Yan was curiously sizing up the latent dragon abyss, a burly figure walked up the stairs from the edge of the stone platform not far away. When the guards around the stone platform saw the burly man, they immediately showed a respectful look and quickly bowed to the latter. The burly man also waved his hand roughly, and his face still had a gloomy expression that couldn't be erased. Because of the previous incident, he had been punished by the Elders Guild to patrol the entire Sea Serpent clan and was not allowed to leave the clan for 3 months. In the past, he had never suffered such humiliation. This man was the bloodline leader of the Sea Flood Dragon clan, who had been forced back by Xiao Yan on the Snake Island not long ago with the help of the strange flame. It was because of the failure of the Yuan estate selection that Xue Xue was punished by the Council of Elders, which led to this scene. Damn it! It's all that human brat's fault. With a furious snort, the burly man suddenly raised his head. At the same time, a figure in a black robe appeared in his sight. Looking at the slightly familiar back, the burly man's squinted eyes slowly widened. In the end, deep within his eyes, there was a ball of deep anger. Human brat! It's you! You actually dare to appear in my clan. There's a path to heaven but you don't take it. There's no door to hell but you walk into it yourself. Raging anger gathered crazily in Commander Xue's eyes. Back then, he was unable to kill Xiao Yan because of Wang Ziyuan's obstruction. Today, Xiao Yan actually appeared in his clan with great fanfare. No matter what, he had to release the anger that he had been suppressing in his heart for more than a month. Brat, go to hell. You caused the old me to be punished for 3 months. Today, I will let you have a taste of what it means to beg for death. With a furious cry, Commander Xue did not allow any explanation. His feet stomped heavily on the ground in front of the stunned gazes around the stone stage. His body immediately charged forward. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared behind Xiao Yan. A fist smashed toward the latter's head. Xiao Yan's expression suddenly changed in the face of the attack that suddenly came from behind him. He did not dare to be the slightest bit negligent. A thought passed through his heart and the dou qi in his body was hurriedly circulated. At the same time, a blue-colored illusionary image was agglomerated behind him in the blink of an eye. Soon after, Xiao Yan's body moved to the side when the punch came. Only then did the fist, which was filled with a sharp wind, narrowly brush past Xiao Yan's ear. The sharp sound of rushing wind caused Xiao Yan's eardrums to feel pain. Half of his face was distorted, but his body did not dare to pause even a little. He hurriedly dodged again when Commander Xue's punch was about to land. Xiao Yan's heart involuntarily felt stunned when he saw the sharp attack of Commander Xue in front of him. The word fate was really ingenious and difficult to grasp. It was unexpected that he would once again meet Commander Xue at this moment. It must be said that it was really a case of enemies meeting on a narrow road. A month ago, he was worried that he would be blocked by this fellow. It was unexpected that they would actually meet again today. After dodging a couple of times, Xiao Yan could not avoid being injured by a couple of punches from this fellow. A couple of large holes were immediately formed on the black robe that he was wearing. At the same time, a couple of bright red fist imprints were left on Xiao Yan's body. It was not until this moment that the guards around the stone platform reacted in shock. Then, their faces changed drastically as they hurriedly stepped forward. They did not care about their own safety as they surrounded Commander Shui, who was about to attack Xiao Yan again. Only then was the latter forced to stop his actions. With the obstruction of these guards, the sudden change in the field finally stopped. However, Commander Shui still had an angry look on his face. His gaze swept across the people in front of him fiercely as he scolded, "What? Are you looking for death? You actually stopped me for a human brat." At this time, Commander Shui was filled with anger. He did not have the time to think about the reason behind this. However, the guards in front of him all had a drastic change in expression as they hurriedly shouted, "Commander Shui, you can't hurt this sir. He is the joint elder of the 2C clan specially invited by Senior Hai Zhantian. You can't hurt him." When Hai Zhantian was mentioned, the pupils of the lineage leader suddenly shrunk. The fury that filled his heart immediately disappeared by more than half. The thoughts in his mind also immediately became clear. Indeed, he had also heard about this matter. It was said that even the tribe leader attached great importance to this matter. After thinking for a while in his heart, Commander Shui's flushed face quickly turned pale. "Joint elder." After spitting out these few words with a sluggish expression, Xingling Ling's heart instantly turned to ashes. Joint elder. That position was comparable to the first elder in the clan. At this moment, he had actually made a move against him. This time, it was likely that he would never be able to repay the punishment on him. However, it was also at this time that the heaven-devouring flood dragon, who had left not long ago, returned once again. At the same time, there were a few more elders behind him. They were the leaders of the Sea Flood Dragon clan. Chapter 1045. North Sea, Sea Serpent Clan, on the Holy Altar. The heaven-devouring serpent and the group of elders behind him, who had once again returned, involuntarily frowned when they saw this scene. Their gazes continued to sweep over, only to discover that there were a couple of extremely eye-catching holes hanging on the black robes that Xiao Yan was currently wearing. The skin under them was also unusually red. The expressions of the few of them immediately changed. When they turned their eyes and saw Commander Shui being surrounded and blocked by a group of guards, they immediately understood what had happened. "Shui Shang, what's going on?" Behind the heaven-devouring dragon, a gray-haired elder walked towards Shui Shang with a gloomy face. At the same time, the guards around him hurriedly moved aside. However, Shui Shang's body trembled in the face of the old man's question. He could not say a single word. The old man was helpless. Only then did he look at the guard beside him. Even though the guard did not want to offend Commander Shui because of this, under the old man's dignified gaze, he still recounted everything that had happened. "Damn it! You made a huge mistake last time, and now you dare to attack Elder Xiao. You deserve to die." As he spoke, the gray-haired elder suddenly raised a palm and was about to hit Shui Shang's chest. With the elder's cultivation, if this palm really landed, even if Shui Shang did not die, he would be severely injured. However, it was also at this moment that Xiao Yan suddenly opened his mouth. "Elder, please wait. I think this is just a misunderstanding." Once Xiao Yan's words were uttered, the old man's face finally stopped. He let out a faint cold snort and spoke to Shui Shang in an icy tone. "If the principal did not plead for you, you would have become a cripple. This elder's words are too serious. The matter between me and Commander Shui is just a misunderstanding. Firstly, he did not know who I was. He only knew that I was a human. Secondly, if Commander Shui had not been defeated by me on the Coiling Snake Island a month ago, I don't think that the incident just now would have happened." Hearing Xiao Yan's words, the expressions of the guards present, as well as the heaven-devouring dragon and the others, instantly changed. Their mouths inhaled a breath of cool air. Could it be that Commander Shui's defeat a month ago was because of Xiao Yan? Although they knew that the person who had forced the Sea Serpent Tribe's army to retreat back then was an elite Do-Di, they were not very clear about the details of that battle. Hence, they were naturally unaware of the bone-chilling flame that had obtained great battle merits in that battle. However, they did not expect that the main culprit who had caused the Sea Serpent Tribe's defeat in that battle was actually Xiao Yan in front of them. After understanding this point, the heaven-devouring dragon and the others did not know whether to laugh or cry. At the same time, A thread of pity rose in their hearts for Commander Shui. Of all the people he could meet, he just had to meet this young man in front of them who even they had to be courteous to. After which, Commander Shui Shang left the sacred altar with the help of the guards. Xiao Yan also exchanged some pleasantries with the few elders in front of him before being led by the heaven-devouring dragon back to the Sea Shark tribe's encampment. After seeing Hai Zhantian and the others, Xiao Yan expressed that he was extremely satisfied with the hidden dragon abyss. In this way, the external conditions needed to refine the heavenly flame had been resolved. Next, it was Xiao Yan's personal matter. The medicinal pills needed to swallow the heavenly flame, and the condition of his body must be in the best condition before he prepared to swallow the heavenly flame. Xiao Yan thought about the medicinal pills needed to swallow the heavenly flame. Finally, he gave up on this idea. Putting aside the fact that the medicinal pills needed to swallow the sea heart flame were of a higher tier. Just the medicinal ingredients alone were enough to give Xiao Yan a headache. Although he had the support of the enormous resources of the sea tribe, Xiao Yan clearly understood that he could not always take other people's things. The reason why the two large sea clans were so courteous to him was firstly because he had saved all the younger generation members of the two large sea clans. Another reason was because of Hai Zhantian. If it were not for Hai Zhantian, Xiao Yan would not have been able to possess the status of joint elder of the two large sea clans. Using the current situation as an example, all these titles were merely empty. If they wanted to be real, it was likely that they would have to wait until Xiao Yan displayed sufficient strength for them to take seriously. Xiao Yan involuntarily sighed quietly in his heart when he thought of this. In this world, regardless of where one was, one still needed to use one's strength to speak. Without strength, anyone would view one as an ant. On the other hand, even if one did not do anything, others would similarly treat one as an honored guest. The principle of this world had always been like this. Although there were no medicinal pills, Xiao Yan planned to replace this vacancy with the ice soul that he obtained from the icy spirit frozen spring. As one of the rare existences in this world that could suppress the heavenly flame, if he had the assistance of the ice soul during the process of refining the heavenly flame, the pressure that Xiao Yan had to bear would undoubtedly be greatly reduced. In addition, if he poured out the icy spirit frozen liquid in his storage ring, it would definitely be a great help. Xiao Yan did not need to worry about many things. During the next couple of days, Xiao Yan became idle. Other than sleeping and resting, Xiao Yan began to tour the enormous palace at the bottom of the sea during these couple of days. In this regard, Hai Zhantian and the others did not disturb him, so as not to add any unnecessary psychological burden to the young man. Therefore, as his granddaughter, Hai Linger was naturally sent to accompany Xiao Yan. With Hai Linger by his side, the young lord of the Sea Serpent clan, Shui Crown, naturally had to be there as well. At first, the two of them were a little awkward because of Xiao Yan's current identity. However, the three of them were after all, and they quickly adapted to each other. From time to time they would chat and laugh, and the relationship between the three of them also quickly warmed up. This was perhaps the main reason why Hai Zhantian sent his granddaughter. The friendship established between the young people was often much more solid than the promises made by the old guys. A few days later, Xiao Yan, Hai Machin and the others appeared together on the sacred altar of the Sea Serpent clan. Everyone looked at the huge deep sea cave in front of them, and then their gazes fell on Xiao Yan. Today was the day that Xiao Yan was prepared to enter the hidden dragon abyss and begin to devour the sea heart flame. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the gazes of Xiao Yan's group landed on Hai Machin and Hai Zhantian in unison. They were old friends for 1,000 years. Once they parted today, they would no longer be able to meet each other again. How could such a scene not cause one to feel pity in one's heart? The two old men looked at each other. Their eyes were calm and did not ripple. However, no one knew what kind of shocking waves were surging in their hearts at this moment. The two of them were silent for more than a quarter of an hour. However, from the beginning to the end, they did not say a single word. In the end, Hai Machin was the first to withdraw his gaze. His body trembled slightly, and a blue flame immediately ignited on the surface of his body. The few people beside him were all moved. Other than being stunned, there was naturally some envy in their eyes. After Hai Machin's body completely transformed into a ball of blue flame, he charged into Xiao Yan's body. Xiao Yan also solemnly cupped his hands towards everyone present. Then, his body trembled. As the white flame lingered on his body flew to the sky above the hidden dragon abyss. Then, under everyone's gazes, he turned into a white streamer. Like a dragon diving into the abyss, he charged into the cold water-filled cave below. Chapter 1046. After entering the hidden dragon abyss, Xiao Yan swiftly dived into the depths. According to the heaven-devouring dragon, the deeper one went into the hidden dragon abyss, the lower the temperature of the surrounding seawater. Hence, Xiao Yan needed to find a place that was absolutely suitable for him. An hour later, following Xiao Yan's descent, the temperature of the surrounding seawater had indeed dropped to the point that even his bone-chilling flame was unable to completely block it. This caused Xiao Yan's heart to be shocked, but it also caused his heart to be extremely satisfied. The seawater was filled with the dark and cold aura of the ancestors of the sea serpent tribe. After countless years of accumulation, the cold aura of this place was actually able to affect the heavenly flame. It must be said that it was extremely frightening. Of course, this was naturally due to Xiao Yan's current weak cultivation. Otherwise, how could the heavenly flame, the most violent energy in the world, be so easily suppressed? Looking back from this depth, he could no longer see the exit of the hidden dragon abyss. However, there was still a small gap from the low-temperature environment that Xiao Yan had hoped for. Xiao Yan's diving figure only gradually came to a stop after he had entered the hidden dragon abyss for a full 2 hours. Feeling the shockingly low temperature of the surrounding seawater, Xiao Yan's face involuntarily turned slightly pale. He could only circulate the dou qi in his body, causing the burning flame on the surface of his body to become even fiercer. Only then was he able to barely withstand it. At the same time, Xiao Yan's face revealed an extremely satisfied smile. This is the place. Without much hesitation, Xiao Yan directly sat down. Soon after, a somewhat illusionary human figure also scuttled out from his body. It was Haimachin. Little fellow, you should be prepared. Once you say, start, the old me will automatically cut off the connection between the sea heart flame. At that time, without my control, the sea heart flame will definitely erupt. Everything will depend on you. Hearing this, Xiao Yan's expression was solemn as he nodded. He extended his hand and a light flashed above his palm. A palm-sized deep blue ice crystal appeared out of nowhere. The instant this ice crystal appeared, a frightening aura that was many times colder than the seawater immediately spread out. At the same time, the seawater surrounding this ice crystal also swiftly turned into an extremely solid layer of ice. Subsequently, under Xiao Yan's deliberate control, the ice layer finally melted. However, at the same time, the extremely cold aura contained within it also cleverly covered Xiao Yan. This is the extreme cold ice soul. Good brat, where did you get this thing from? No wonder I did not see you swallow any medicinal pills. You actually have this thing. The instant he saw this ice crystal, Haimachin's face immediately revealed a shocked expression. His mouth could not help but exclaim. Clearly, being able to see the extreme cold ice soul in this place caused even him to feel extremely shocked. With regards to the might of this thing, how could Haimachin, who was a heavenly flame, not know about it in his heart? This junior was only able to obtain it by luck. Xiao Yan smiled and did not explain further. However, the latter continued to nod his head. Not bad, not bad. With this thing, your chances of refining a heavenly flame will increase significantly. In this way I can be at ease. In that case, are you prepared now? Yes. Xiao Yan nodded his head heavily. Almost at the same time, the connection between Haimachin and the sea heart flame was also instantly cut off. Bang! In an instant, the fierce blue-colored flame immediately began to wreak havoc within Xiao Yan's body. The wild and violent energy swiftly spread in all directions, intending to burn Xiao Yan's qi paths and internal organs into ashes. Xiao Yan did not hesitate. The instant the connection between Haimachin and the sea heart flame was cut off, the bone-chilling flame immediately surged out from all over his body and swiftly forced the sea heart flame into the vortex. However, the sea heart flame was not a kind soul. Having lost control, its natural wild and violent nature could not be suppressed. In merely a short moment, the encirclement that was agglomerated by the bone-chilling flame was forcefully broken by it. However, Xiao Yan did not expect to use this little trick to successfully subdue it. Instead, he used the bone-chilling flame to chase it away while maneuvering the dense cold air that was being emitted by the extreme cold ice soul. He drew it into his body and carefully and swiftly covered all of his qi paths and bones under the wrapping of dou qi. This time around, Xiao Yan allowed the sea heart flame to violently attack him. However, it was ultimately unable to easily eliminate the cold air. However, with the slow flow of time, the cold air was ultimately unable to endure for too long. Other than borrowing the cold air, Xiaoyan naturally relied more on his own strength to suppress the eruption of the sea heart flame. However, it was clearly impossible to suppress the sea heart flame within a short period of time. Within 4 hours, the sea heart flame had actually broken through Xiaoyan's encirclement 5 times. Moreover, the result each time would cause Xiaoyan's body to suffer quite a great setback. In the end, Xiaoyan steeled his heart and directly took out 3 jade bottles that contained the icy spirit cold liquid from his storage ring. Without any hesitation, he poured all of the icy spirit cold liquid into his mouth. Immediately, an extremely icy coldness immediately spread from Xiaoyan's mouth. Xiaoyan's entire face instantly became ghastly white. Even some ice fragments had formed on his face. Such a crazy action was truly shocking. The icy spirit cold liquid flowed down his throat and rolled into his body. Xiaoyan's entire upper body instantly became numb. If it was not for the protection of the bone-chilling flame, it was likely that Xiaoyan would have already been sealed in ice at this moment. With the addition of this icy spirit cold liquid, the arrogance of the sea heart flame was swiftly suppressed. Soon after, in addition to the cold air of the extreme cold ice soul and the bone-chilling flame, suppressing and driving it away, the wild and violent sea heart flame was finally firmly sealed within the vortex by Xiaoyan after over 10 days. Following which, it was the official process of swallowing and refining. Compared to the former, this process was the most dangerous in the entire process of swallowing the heavenly flame. The slightest carelessness could lead to a backlash from the heavenly flame, causing one's body to explode and die. In addition, there was also the bone-chilling flame in Xiaoyan's body. The difficulty of this process had imperceptibly increased greatly. However, with regards to this, Xiaoyan still did not turn back. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. It had been almost a year and a half since Xiaoyan had entered the Northern Sea. It was also at this moment that an uninvited guest was welcomed in the Northern Sea. Within the 2 great sea clans, the clan leader Chongshou and the heaven-devouring dragon were both alarmed. Similarly, Hai Zhantian also leaped out of the sea at the first moment. Behind him, the other 2 clan leaders also followed closely. Chapter 1047. On the surface of the boundless sea, an old man in a white robe was moving towards the depths of the North Sea at an extremely fast speed. As he swept across the surface of the sea at lightning speed, the strong wind pressure separated the seawater below. It was as if a river channel had been opened in the sea. It was not until the old man's figure disappeared into the distance that the sea behind him gradually returned to its calm state. However, as the old man was moving towards the depths of the North Sea, 3 figures leaped out from the seemingly calm sea and looked solemnly towards the south. These 3 people were the 2 clan leaders of the Sea Tribe and Hai Zhantian. With the cultivation of these 3 people, they had already noticed the existence of the person the moment he stepped into the North Sea. However, they did not expect that he would actually come all the way to the depths of the North Sea. They did not know what this person's purpose was. Our North Sea has little to do with the various experts on the continent. Why would someone come to the depths of our North Sea today? Looking at his posture, I'm afraid he's not here with good intentions. Tsunami and the sky-devouring dragon looked solemnly at the sea in the south, their faces slightly gloomy. Humph, my North Sea is not a place where people can behave atrociously. It's fine if he's not here to cause trouble, but if he's here to cause harm to our sea tribe, I don't mind feeding him to the fish. Hearing this, Hai Zhantian's face was filled with disdain. Although this person's cultivation was not weak, in his eyes, he was still too weak. Hearing these words, the 2 behind him fell silent. Although Hai Zhantian usually did not care about anything, he would still stand up without any hesitation when it came to matters that affected the interests of the Sea Tribe. This caused the 2 tribe leaders to admire him from the bottom of their hearts. At the same time as these 3 people leaped out of the sea, the old man in a white robe, who was moving rapidly towards the depths of the North Sea, seemed to have sensed something. His charging figure suddenly stopped, and the moment he raised his head, a solemn look appeared on his face. I didn't expect to actually attract the protector of the Sea Tribe. The old man frowned and sighed softly, but he did not hesitate too much. His body trembled slightly, and he rushed forward again. A moment later, 4 figures stood facing each other on the boundless sea. Among them, 3 were naturally the tsunami dragon, the heaven-devouring serpent and Hai Zhantian. As for the last person, He was the white-gowned old man that had charged into the Northern Sea. Haha, I didn't expect that my visit to the North Sea would cause the Sea Clan to welcome me in such a grand manner. This old man is truly overwhelmed by your favor. The white-robed elder laughed heartily as his gaze swept across the three people in front of him. When his gaze swept past Heartwarming, he involuntarily paused. His eyes narrowed slightly as his heart sank slightly. With his cultivation, he actually couldn't see through the old man's cultivation. Even in the clan, there were very few people who could give him such a feeling. While the white-robed old man was sizing up the three people in front of him, Heartwarming was also sizing up the white-robed old man. It was only when his gaze landed on the white-robed old man's waist that his heart shuddered. May I know who you are, and why have you come to my Northern Sea? Tsunami's expression did not change. He took a step forward and said in a neutral tone, Haha, if I say that I'm here to have fun, would you believe me? Although he knew that the old man in front of him was extremely powerful, the white-robed old man still had a fearless look on his face as he replied to Tsunami with a mocking expression. If you have such an attitude, then don't blame us for asking you to leave. Seeing the mocking expression on the white-robed old man's face, Tsunami's expression immediately darkened. His body trembled slightly as an extremely terrifying aura swept out from his body. It turned into an invisible energy storm that rushed towards the white-robed old man in front of him. Hey, do you want to play? Seeing this, the white-robed old man was not afraid at all. The corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile as he took a step forward. Instantly, a terrifying aura that was several times more powerful than the former immediately rushed forward. The moment the vast aura gushed out, the sea level below was forcefully pressed down. The vast sea surface caved in uncontrollably as if the ground had collapsed. The aura that surged out from Tsunami's body was instantly defeated by the latter. What? Tsunami was shocked. He did not expect the white-robed old man's cultivation to be so powerful. Even with his cultivation, it was difficult to fight against him. I'll do it. Just as Heartwarming's expression changed, the sky-devouring dragon suddenly waved his sleeves, and a powerful aura swept out from his body. Then, it met the white-robed old man's aura. During this process, Heartwarming did not move at all. The strongest friendship was not only created through living together for a long time, but also through working together in the face of difficulties until mutual trust was gained. The pressure exerted by the white-robed old man would undoubtedly improve the relationship between the two. This would be of great benefit to the survival of the Sea Clan in the future. However, even with the addition of the heaven-devouring flood dragon, the two of them still underestimated the strength of the white-robed old man in front of them. The pressure that the two of them had gathered together was still forcefully defeated by the white-robed old man in the end. The moment the aura was defeated, an invisible energy storm spread over the sea level for a short time. Even the sea below seemed to be swept up by the wind, stirring up layers of astonishing waves. Almost at the same time, the two patriarchs of the Sea Clan trembled and took 2 steps back uncontrollably. Their expressions changed. They gritted their teeth fiercely, raised their heads, and looked at the white-robed old man again with unwilling eyes. Seeing this, the white-robed old man grinned and said, What, not satisfied? Do you want to try again? When the two heard this, they looked at each other and saw a trace of anger in each other's eyes. Just as they were about to move, Heartwarming in front of them suddenly snorted and reprimanded, Are you still not satisfied? You clearly know that you are not a match for him. Why are you asking for trouble? With a cold reprimand, the two of them gritted their teeth and fell silent. Heartwarming glanced at the two of them from the corner of his eye, and smiled in satisfaction in his heart. Then, he looked coldly at the white-robed old man opposite him, crossed his arms and said in a low voice, What are you talking about? With his arms crossed, he said in a low voice, Speak, who are you and what is your purpose in coming to my North Sea? Although his voice was not loud, it was full of dignity, making people not dare to look at him lightly. Seeing Heartwarming's appearance, the white-robed old man was secretly shocked. The other party was indeed worthy of being the guardian of the North Sea. This dignity was rare for ordinary people. Withdrawing his aura, the white-robed old man's face returned to a serious expression. He cupped his hands and said to Heartwarming, I have offended you just now. Please forgive me, senior. Heartwarming was unmoved. He only stared at the other party with a slightly gentler gaze. Then the white-robed old man continued, I am Xiao Mingyuan. I have no intention of offending the North Sea. This time, I only came to find a person. Therefore, I hope Senior can let me go. Chapter 1048. Surnamed Xiao. Are you from the Xiao clan in the central region? Hai Zhantian's eyes flashed slightly as he asked thoughtfully. Hearing this, Xiao Mingyuan was stunned at first. Then he noticed the jade token hanging on his waist. He smiled slightly and replied respectfully, "Yes, Junior Xiao Mingyuan is from the Xiao clan." As soon as these words came out, Hai Ju and heaven-devouring dragon behind Hai Zhantian were stunned. It was really strange that someone from the central region would come to the North Sea to look for someone. Soon after, however, the hearts of these three involuntarily thought of Xiao Yan, who was currently in a retreat within the hidden dragon abyss and swallowing the heavenly flame. Speaking of which, the latter's surname was Xiao. Additionally, this Xiao Mingyuan had come to find someone. In other words, his target was Xiao Yan. Thinking of this, Hai Ju and heaven-devouring dragon immediately looked at each other. Both of them could see the thoughts in each other's mind. After a quick thought, just as Hai Ju was about to speak, Hai Zhantian in front of him suddenly snorted coldly and said in a cold tone, "I don't care if you are looking for someone or playing. In my North Sea, I don't welcome human experts. Leave this place." With a cold snort, not only Xiao Mingyuan, but even Hai Ju and heaven-devouring dragon behind him couldn't help but change their expressions. They didn't expect Hai Zhantian to chase them away so rudely. "Senior, Junior is indeed looking for someone. I have no intention of becoming enemies with the Sea Clan. Please." With regards to Hai Zhantian's reprimand, Xiao Mingyuan only thought that the other party did not believe his words. Immediately, he hurriedly opened his mouth to explain. However, before the words from his mouth sounded, Hai Zhantian waved his big sleeve and a vast pressure that was countless times more terrifying than before instantly turned into an invisible storm that swept forward. Before Xiao Mingyuan could react, it fiercely pounced on his body and sent him flying with a blow. Xiao Mingyuan, who stabilized his body, had a huge change in expression. Although the imposing pressure couldn't hurt him, the terrifying power still caused the blood in his body to surge. "If you are still stubborn, then next time, it won't be just this." Just as Xiao Mingyuan raised his head, Hai Zhantian's cold voice rang out once again. At the same time, the terrifying aura from the latter's body also assaulted Xiao Mingyuan. Xiao Mingyuan's expression immediately changed drastically when he sensed the strength of that force. He could not be bothered about anything else as he hurriedly maneuvered the Do Qi in his body. His body swiftly retreated backward and only stopped when he was 1,000 feet away. However, Hai Zhantian still looked at the other party aggressively. The biting coldness in his eyes did not decrease in the slightest because Xiao Mingyuan had retreated. It wasn't until a long while later that Xiao Mingyuan gritted his teeth with a face full of unwillingness. He helplessly let out a long sigh, flicked his sleeve, and turned around to leave the North Sea. After a long time, when Xiao Mingyuan's aura had already disappeared into the North Sea, Hai Zhantian retracted the pressure he had released. At the same time, he heaved a sigh of relief. Only at this moment did Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon behind him exchange doubtful looks. After hesitating for a moment, Hai Zhantian finally could not help but open his mouth. "Father, if Xiao Mingyuan is really here to look for someone, could he be here to look for Xiao Yan? If this is the case, then if we expel him from the North Sea, will this?" However, before Hai Zhantian could finish speaking, Hai Zhantian narrowed his eyes and coldly said, "This is still uncertain. However, if this is really the case, then all the more we can't let him enter the North Sea." Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon immediately raised their eyebrows when these words were spoken. They could not help but feel doubtful in their hearts. If Xiao Mingyuan was here to look for Xiao Yan, then it would prove that Xiao Yan was a member of the Xiao clan. Wouldn't it be best to let him return to the clan? However, why didn't they let Xiao Mingyuan look for him? Hai Zhantian seemed to have seen through the doubts of the two. He took a deep breath and raised his eyes to look in the direction that Xiao Mingyuan had left. He slowly said, "Even if he is here to look for Xiao Yan, we can't be sure whether his purpose is good or bad. If his goal is to kill Xiao Yan, then we will undoubtedly harm Xiao Yan if we bring Xiao Yan to him. But what if Xiao Mingyuan is here to look for Xiao Yan with good intentions?" The heaven-devouring flood dragon nodded and then asked suspiciously, "Yes, if Xiao Mingyuan was here to look for Xiao Yan with good intentions, then wouldn't their actions be counterproductive? I don't think so. If Xiao Yan is really a member of the Xiao clan, then why would he bring his ancestor with him when he left the clan? Moreover, his ancestor is only a spiritual body. As a spiritual body, it is very difficult for him to survive on this continent. So why didn't he choose to return to the clan? Hai Zhantian's words made Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon's eyes light up. If Xiao Yan and his ancestor did not leave the Xiao clan due to some kind of coercion, then for the sake of his ancestor, Xiao Yan should return to the clan. However, it was obvious that the latter did not want to return. This also meant that the reason why they left the clan was probably because of people like Xiao Mingyuan. The reason why Hai Zhantian expelled Xiao Mingyuan from the North Sea was to avoid attracting a bigger disaster. In short, whether he is here to look for Xiao Yan or not, we can't let him enter the North Sea. The North Sea is the territory of the Sea Tribe. Human experts are not allowed to enter. If something similar happens in the future, no matter what, we must expel them. Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon immediately responded respectfully. Then, the three of them returned to the depths of the North Sea with their own guesses. At the same time, Xiao Yan was still slowly refining the sea heart flame in the hidden dragon abyss. Time was like the sand in one's fingers. Unknowingly, 3 years had passed. In the past 3 years, the hidden dragon abyss had always been in a calm state. From the outside, it was impossible to see any changes in the hidden dragon abyss. Even Hai Zhantian was unable to see the specific situation inside due to the uniqueness of the hidden dragon abyss. Outside the hidden dragon abyss, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon stood quietly. Their eyes were fixed on the calm surface of the hidden dragon abyss, as if they wanted to see something from it. The two of them would come here every once in a while to observe the hidden dragon abyss, as if they wanted to see Xiao Yan's situation through the surface of the hidden dragon abyss. However, their thoughts seemed to be a little naive. Sigh, as expected, I still can't see anything. That kid, ever since he entered the hidden dragon abyss, there has been no movement. I wonder what the situation is like now. After staring for a long time without any results, Hai Zhantian helplessly sighed. He exchanged glances with the heaven-devouring dragon beside him and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. After which, the two of them turned around and left. However, at this moment, the originally calm hidden dragon abyss in front of them suddenly began to churn violently. Then with a pu sound, the ice-cold seawater in the hidden dragon abyss instantly shot up into the sky. Chapter 1049. An astonishing pillar of water gushed out from the hidden dragon abyss, reaching a height of 100 feet. Just as it was about to touch the sea above, it suddenly exploded with a bang, turning into countless tiny icy water droplets that sprinkled over the entire sea serpent clan. Outside the hidden dragon abyss, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon watched this scene with shocked expressions. By the time the two returned to their senses, they saw another pillar of blue fire shoot out from the hidden dragon abyss. However, unlike before, the pillar of fire stealthily dissipated in the air this time. At the same time, it also drew in all the energy in the area. This time, it was not only Do Qi, but even the Genesis Qi in the area was stirred. Hai Zhantian's and the heaven-devouring dragon's expressions changed once again. To be able to draw in the surrounding Genesis Qi, this meant that Xiao Yan, who was currently cultivating in the hidden dragon abyss, had at least broken through to the origin transformation stage. This kid is really surprising. Standing outside the hidden dragon abyss, Hai Zhantian stared at the cave in front of him in astonishment. The heaven-devouring dragon could not help but nod in agreement. Then his gaze shifted, and he saw the Sea Serpent clan experts continuously swarming over from outside the sacred altar. These people must have been attracted by the strange commotion just now. However, Xiao Yan was most likely at a critical juncture of his breakthrough, and he absolutely could not be disturbed by any external factors. Otherwise, all his previous efforts would be wasted. Bas. However, before the heaven-devouring dragon could do anything, Hai Zhantian was already a step ahead. His body trembled slightly, and a powerful aura immediately swept out, forcing back the sea race experts that were rapidly approaching the sacred altar. At the same time, a voice filled with majesty spread from his mouth. From now on, seal off the area 100 feet around the sacred altar. No one is allowed to enter. The command shook the hearts of everyone outside the sacred altar, and they hurriedly retreated with the people beside them. However, Hai Zhantian still seemed to be worried. With a wave of his sleeve, a vast force rapidly spread outwards, enveloping the entire sacred altar. Only then did he withdraw his gaze. The heaven-devouring serpent beside Hai Zhantian had also witnessed everything that was happening in front of him. However, It was unexpected that Hai Zhantian would pay so much attention to Xiao Yan. Perhaps this had something to do with Hai Machan, but it was likely that he had been moved by Xiao Yan's potential. Yes. He possessed such a cultivation at such a young age. The strength of his fighting strength was something that the two of them had never seen before in their lives. However, the thing that shocked them the most was that Xiao Yan was not only incomparably strong in the field of training, but he had also deeply immersed himself in the art of refining medicine. On this point, it was likely that no one in the entire continent could compare with him. Most importantly, Xiao Yan's character were things that an ordinary person could not compare with. This was also the reason why the Sea Clan was deeply grateful to him. Perhaps, this was also the greatest reason why Hai Zhantian had high hopes for him. As the energy in this space violently surged, a powerful energy of heaven and earth madly rushed into the hidden dragon abyss. A huge energy vortex also condensed in the sky above the hidden dragon abyss. The vigorous energy of heaven and earth quickly gathered, turning into an astonishing storm that rapidly spun above the sacred altar, constantly pouring a huge amount of energy into the hidden dragon abyss below. At the same time, Xiao Yan, who was currently in the depths of the hidden dragon abyss, was also madly absorbing and refining the vast amount of energy from the outside world. The light blue flame burned fiercely on the surface of Xiao Yan's body, first filtering the surging energy. Then, after entering the meridians in Xiao Yan's body, it was refined by the cultivation method, and finally purified by the strange flame again before entering the cyclone space. Compared to 3 years ago, the current flame mantra chi method was already very different. After Xiao Yan had successfully refined the sea heart flame, the level of the flame mantra had also risen. Just from its current state, its speed was likely comparable to a high-level Ling Qi method or even surpassing it. However, it was much inferior when compared to a E-level Qi method. Despite this, one could be certain that with Xiao Yan's current flame mantra, there was definitely rarely any Ling Qi method that could compare with it. The increase in the level of the flame technique also directly affected Xiao Yan's cultivation speed. Judging from the current speed of Xiao Yan's absorption and refinement of energy, it was undoubtedly several dozen times faster than 3 years ago. This also further proved the difference between a human rank cultivation method and a spirit rank cultivation method. That was not all. Even Xiao Yan's cultivation this time was different from before. Apart from Do Qi, there was also an even greater amount of Genesis Qi that was being absorbed and refined. Wave after wave of energy was constantly poured into the cyclone space. The Do Qi turned into a sea of energy while the Genesis Qi condensed on its own in the cyclone space, turning into a fist-sized milky white energy bead. This was proof that he had broken through to the origin transformation realm. An origin bead. This was something that all origin transformation and returnance experts possessed. Only the formation of an origin bead could prove that one had broken through to the Do Emperor realm and become a true origin transformation expert. The formation and existence of an origin bead would only occur between the origin transformation and returnance realms. Its purpose and value was to stabilize the balance between Do Qi and Genesis Qi in the cultivator's body during these two realms. This was to ensure that the cultivator would not explode and die from the conflicting energies within their bodies. Only when one's cultivation reached the origin king stage would the Genesis pearls in one's body begin to decompose. At the same time, the battle Qi in one's body would be completely converted into Genesis Qi, and one would become a true origin king expert. It could be said that the origin transformation and returnance realms were actually a process of converting Do Qi into Genesis Qi. Once the conversion was completed, the cultivator would become an origin king and step into the ranks of the true experts of the continent. They would be revered by everyone. However, even though that was the case, there had been many people who had failed on the path between the origin transformation and returnance realm since ancient times. As a result, even if one succeeded in reaching the origin transformation realm, they would have to work even harder in the future. They would have to advance steadily step by step. Only then would they have a chance of breaking through. As the energy frantically poured in, Xiao Yan's aura rapidly rose. In the blink of an eye, his aura had surpassed the late origin transformation realm and was approaching the returnance realm. However, even with this, vast amounts of energy continued to surge in from the outside world, pouring into Xiao Yan's body without stopping. After being refined by the heavenly fire, the energy was poured into the vortex space. At the same time, Xiao Yan's aura was about to break through to the returnance realm. Ha! However, it was also at this moment that Xiao Yan's tightly shut eyes were suddenly opened. A piercingly cold green-colored glow shot out from his eyes. At the same time, a low cry was emitted. Both of his hands were swiftly raised. His 10 fingers moved together and formed a seal in a lightning-like manner. Soon after, the rising aura within Xiao Yan's body suddenly became sluggish. After which, it swiftly fell like the receding tide. The repeatedly swelling energy within the vortex was also forcefully suppressed by Xiao Yan. Afterwards, the absorption and refinement of the energy of the world continued. Chapter 1050. Within the hidden dragon abyss, Xiao Yan repeatedly suppressed the energy that he had refined within his body 7 times. Only then did the enormous natural energy around him gradually disappear. Xiao Yan's cultivation had completely stabilized at the intermediate level of the origin transformation stage. He was only a step away from the advanced level of the origin transformation stage. Xiao Yan had always pursued stability and victory. After refining the sea heart flame, the energy it had given him was indeed great. If he wanted to, he could break through to returnance in a single stroke, but at the same time, there would definitely be a gap in his cultivation after breaking through. In other words, for a very long period of time in the future, it would be very difficult for Xiao Yan's training to increase. Compared to this, Xiao Yan was more willing to focus on the present and train steadily. Accumulating strength would allow him to achieve great results. In this way, the benefits that Xiao Yan would obtain would naturally be permanent. Only after a long while did Xiao Yan slowly exhale in relief after his aura stabilized. He looked inside himself and saw the milky white Genesis bead that slowly hovered in the vortex space within his body. He could not help but smile in satisfaction. Xiao Yan withdrew his thoughts and extended his hand again. With a puff, a deep blue flame rose up from his palm. It was the sea heart flame. After 4 years, the sea heart flame had finally been completely subdued by Xiao Yan. Now, he could control it like an extension of his arm. After withdrawing the heavenly flame, Xiao Yan casually stowed the extreme chilling ice soul in front of him into his storage ring. Only then did he stand up. With a gentle tremble, he instantly vanished from where he was. With the growth of his cultivation, Xiao Yan's current speed was countless times faster than a few years ago. He probably had nothing to fear if he faced Qin Su again. Swish! A short while later, Xiao Yan's figure abruptly charged out of the hidden dragon abyss. He leapt into the air, immediately attracting the attention of the experts of the Sea Serpent clan. Outside the sacred altar, countless experts of the Sea Serpent clan only understood when they saw Xiao Yan charge out of the hidden dragon abyss. It was no wonder that Hai Zhantian had sealed off the entire sacred altar. Xiao Yan was actually in the hidden dragon abyss. At the same time, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring flood dragon were also looking at Xiao Yan in the air with faces of joy. With their cultivations, they were naturally able to see the depth of Xiao Yan's aura at a glance. It was the middle level of the origin transformation realm. Moreover, his aura was stable and long-lasting. The energy in his body was unusually abundant. He was only a step away from the late level. In 4 years' time, he had leapt from the late 7-star Do D to the mid-origin transformation realm. Such a shocking cultivation speed was truly shocking. Of course, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon understood that the reason Xiao Yan's cultivation could rise so quickly was mostly because he had refined the sea heart flame. However, no matter how one put it, Xiao Yan's current cultivation was truly there. Moreover, the two of them also understood that the process of swallowing a heavenly flame was extremely difficult. If they were the slightest bit careless, they would end up with nothing left of their corpses. Speaking of which, Xiao Yan's current cultivation was largely due to the sea heart flame. However, at the end of the day, it was also because of Xiao Yan's own ability. Otherwise, if it was someone else, forget about whether they could successfully swallow and refine a heavenly flame, they would not even be able to find a heavenly flame even if they wanted to. After descending, Xiao Yan arrived in front of Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon. He bowed to the two of them and spoke in a respectful tone. "Seniors, it has been a few years since we last met. How have you been? Ha ha ha, why have you become so polite the moment you come out? Relax. We are doing very well. You, on the other hand, have not come out for such a long time and I have not been able to investigate the situation in the hidden dragon abyss. I was so anxious that I almost went down to look for you. Fortunately, you are fine." Ha ha ha. Hai Zhantian laughed out loud. He also sighed in relief in his heart. Xiao Yan had not come out for a few years, causing him to be extremely anxious. If it were not for the fact that he trusted Hai Machen's choice and had personally witnessed Xiao Yan's strength, he would have already gone down to bring him up. Hearing this, Xiao Yan also smiled awkwardly. He hurriedly apologized to Hai Zhantian. The latter waved his hand indifferently. Only then did Xiao Yan sigh in relief. However, at this moment, the heaven-devouring dragon beside him opened his mouth with a somewhat depressed expression. Old Hai is indeed fine, but Hai... Raising his eyebrows, Xiao Yan hurriedly looked at the heaven-devouring dragon, only to see that the latter was staring at the hidden dragon abyss not far behind him. Because of the previous water pillar, nearly half of the cold water in the hidden dragon abyss had been sprayed out. Now, the hidden dragon abyss had become a pure deep well without water. Seeing this, Xiao Yan was suddenly stunned. He was so focused on leaving the hidden dragon abyss that he did not notice this point. Sigh, little fellow, the frigid water in the latent dragon abyss was condensed by our ancestors over countless years. Every drop of frigid water contains frigid energy. This frigid water is extremely important to our clan. What you did just now. At this point, the heaven-devouring dragon was speechless, and Xiao Yan also smiled awkwardly. After a long while, he asked tentatively, Elder, if you can replenish the cold energy in the hidden dragon abyss, even if you use the sea water from the outside world, it won't matter, right? Hearing this, the heaven-devouring dragon immediately raised his eyebrows. On the other hand, Hai Zhantian looked at Xiao Yan with interest. Since the latter could say this, it was likely that he already had a way to help the sea serpent tribe replenish the cold water in the hidden dragon abyss. It is possible to do this, but you should also know that the cold energy in the hidden dragon abyss is not comparable to ordinary cold ice. Believe him. You just need to focus on guiding the water into the hidden dragon abyss. I will bear all the consequences. Before the heaven-devouring dragon finished speaking, Hai Zhantian frowned and interrupted him. Hearing this, the latter clenched his teeth and nodded. Immediately, he guided the sea water outside the space of the sea serpent tribe and poured it into the hidden dragon abyss until it was full. Subsequently, Xiao Yan confidently walked to the front of the hidden dragon abyss. Under the curious gazes of the two people behind him, he waved his sleeve. Over 1,000 jade bottles immediately flew out from his storage ring and floated in mid-air. The moment these jade bottles appeared, an extremely frightening cold energy spread out from them. In the empty space, countless ice shards condensed out of thin air. The intense cold energy caused even Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon to raise their eyebrows. These small jade bottles were actually able to release such a frightening cold energy. Just what kind of divine item was contained within these jade bottles? Bang! Immediately, over 1,000 jade bottles exploded simultaneously. At the same time, a large splash of water shot out from these jade bottles. Finally, it was all poured into the hidden dragon abyss below. Almost at the same time, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon, who were behind Xiao Yan, also recognized the large splash of water. Those 1,000 jade bottles were all filled with icy spirit frost liquid. Chapter 1051. Icy spirit frost liquid. More than 1,000 bottles. They've all been thrown in. This kid is really wasting God's gift recklessly. After discovering that the more than 1,000 jade bottles were filled with icy spirit frost liquid, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon lost control of their emotions. Their faces were full of dumbfounded expressions, and the shock in their hearts was even more unparalleled. It was hard to imagine that Xiao Yan would be willing to throw more than 1,000 bottles of icy spirit frost liquid into the latent dragon abyss without even blinking an eye. This was too rich. Seeing this scene, the heaven-devouring dragon couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If he knew that Xiao Yan would throw so much icy spirit frost liquid into the latent dragon abyss, he would rather Xiao Yan give the icy spirit frost liquid to him. He would naturally use it in the most beneficial way, but looking at the scene before him, it was too late for him to regret. The moment the icy spirit frost liquid was thrown into the latent dragon abyss, an extremely terrifying chi suddenly spread out. The surface of the latent dragon abyss was quickly frozen at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the area hundreds of feet below the latent dragon abyss was also filled with ice. A terrifying aura spread out. In the blink of an eye, Hai Zhantian and the heaven-devouring dragon could clearly feel that the chi in the latent dragon abyss had not only returned to its original peak, but was even more terrifying than before. The icy spirit frost liquid was indeed a creation of heaven and earth. This kind of power was much more terrifying than the sea tribe's accumulation of countless years. After throwing more than 1,000 bottles of icy spirit frost liquid into the latent dragon abyss, Xiao Yan's expression didn't change at all. To the current Xiao Yan, the icy spirit frost liquid was really not a precious thing. After all, as long as he had the extreme cold ice soul in hand, he could naturally have as much icy spirit frost liquid as he wanted. When Xiao Yan turned around, he found the heaven-devouring dragon looking at him with an embarrassed smile. Seeing the puzzled expression on Xiao Yan's face, the heaven-devouring dragon said awkwardly, "Elder Xiao." This time around, the heaven-devouring flood dragon had called out Xiao Yan's status as an elder the moment it opened its mouth. In an instant, the relationship between both parties had become much closer. "I wonder if you have any more icy spirit frost liquid? If possible, I hope you can. If you need the icy spirit liquid, I have 100 bottles here. Take it as a token of my appreciation for lending you the hidden dragon abyss." Upon hearing the words of the heaven-devouring flood dragon, Xiao Yan instantly understood. Without any hesitation, he gently waved his hand. Immediately, rays of light once again flew out from the storage ring and floated in front of the heaven-devouring flood dragon. The latter was also startled by Xiao Yan's generous action. Soon after, it hurriedly kept the 100 jade bottles with joy and gratitude. Although the icy spirit glacial fluid wasn't of much use to him, it was a great help to the younger generation of the Sea Serpent clan. The bloodline of the Sea Serpent clan was cold to begin with. With the help of the icy spirit frost liquid, the cultivation of the younger generation of the Sea Serpent clan would definitely increase by another level. This was crucial to the future of the Sea Serpent clan. To one side, Hai Zhantian gently curled his lips. Afterward, he looked at Xiao Yan and glanced him up and down. He smiled. "Not bad, kid. Not bad, kid. You've reached the mid-origin transformation realm in just 4 years. From your aura, you shouldn't be too far away from the late-origin transformation realm. Strange, if you had borrowed the energy earlier, you should have been able to reach the late-origin transformation realm." Hai Zhantian laughed softly in his mouth. However, he quickly discovered something suspicious. He believed that Xiao Yan definitely had the ability to break through to the advanced level of the origin transformation realm, but why did he not? Going too far is as bad as not going far enough. Everything has to be done slowly. With that, Xiao Yan grinned. However, he sighed inside. Late origin transformation was not the only thing he could do. If he wanted to, he could break through to returnance in a single stroke. However, he would not be able to endure the consequences of doing so. However, Xiao Yan was extremely satisfied with how things were right now. "Oh right. I wonder if that kid Bloodcrown has returned or not. He used to come here every day, wanting to know when you would emerge. Now that you've emerged, that kid has disappeared without a trace." As if he had thought of something, the heavens-devouring dragon returned to his senses and gently smiled as he shook his head. Compared to Xiao Yan, his son was far too disappointing. After 4 years, he had only broken through to early origin transformation a few months ago. Compared to Xiao Yan, there was basically no comparison between the two of them. Is Bloodcrown not here? A brilliance immediately blossomed on Xiao Yan's face when Xue Mian was mentioned. Always interacting with old people had caused him to forget that he was merely a young person. Only by walking together with Xue Mian and the others would he be able to feel a relaxed feeling without any pressure. At the very least, he did not need to play any tricks. Haha, that kid has gone out with Ling. Recently, something seems to have been discovered in the depths of the Northern Sea, which has attracted quite a few people. The two of them have gone with each other to see what's going on. I've already sent people to follow them, so they'll be fine, Hai Zhantian laughed. Hai Zhantian laughed. He was too lazy to care about the matters of the youngsters. However, after experiencing the empty realm at the bottom of the sea, he became more careful. Whenever Hai Linga went out, there would be experts from the sea race following and protecting her. Ha ha ha, I never thought I'd see Brother Xiao Yan emerge as soon as I return. Brother Xiao, welcome back. However, it was also at this moment that a hearty laugh suddenly rang out above the stone platform. Afterwards, the space beside the heavens-devouring dragon distorted slightly, and Bloodcrown appeared. Brother Bloodcrown. The two of them immediately gave each other a big hug as soon as they saw each other. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the two of them seemed to have discovered the other two beside them and immediately smiled awkwardly. Afterward, Bloodcrown began to tell the three of them about what he had seen and heard on his trip. 2 months ago, not long after Bloodcrown had broken through to the origin transformation realm, a dense poisonous fog had suddenly spread out from an uninhabited island in the depths of the Northern Sea. The poison within the fog was so strong that even some Dodi would not be able to avoid it. There had even been a Dodi who had died from the poison. It was also from that moment onward that the originally desolate and uninhabited island had drawn the attention of various experts in the North Sea. A few days ago, quite a few powerful poison masters in the Northern Sea had rushed over after hearing the news and surrounded the island. The most eye-catching thing was that there was no lack of origin transformation experts among the poison masters. Not long ago, quite a number of experts had launched attacks on the island. After many attempts, the poison fog on the island had finally dissipated by more than half. At the same time, the reason for the poison fog spreading was also exposed in front of everyone's eyes. The one who had released the poison fog was not some strange flower or grass, nor was it some high-rank magical beast. It was a person. A woman in a long white dress who appeared as beautiful and moving as an epiphyllum. What shocked everyone even more was that after the poison masters had identified her, they had discovered that the reason this woman could release such a frightening poison fog was because of her naturally frightening physique. Woeful poison body. It was also at this moment that a pretty figure suddenly appeared in Xiao Yan's mind after hearing Bloodcrown's description. Could it be her? The thought that suddenly rose in his heart caused Xiao Yan to feel an inexplicable uneasiness from the bottom of his heart. However, Xiao Yan still insisted that she should still be there at this moment. It was impossible for her to encounter such danger. That's right, all of you should take a look at this. A light flashed in Bloodcrown's palm as he spoke. A deep blue bead was crushed by him the moment it appeared. Soon after, a clear image appeared in front of the four of them. What was shown in the image was a battle with a great disparity in strength. The battlefield was that small island. When Xiao Yan clearly saw the information that was displayed in the image, the uneasiness in his heart was instantly magnified. At the same time, an emotion that was a mixture of shock and fury suddenly rose from the bottom of his heart with a loud bang, especially when his gaze saw the extremely beautiful lady wearing a long white dress in the battleground. At the same time, an emotion that was mixed with shock and fury suddenly rose from the bottom of his heart with a loud bang. The woman who had appeared in the image was someone who should have been living on the Do-Chi continent. Little Fairy Doctor. Chapter 1052. Little Fairy Doctor. Xiao Yan was flying forward at full speed on the boundless sea. The powerful wind pressure stirred up layers of huge waves in the sea below. Xiao Yan's figure had already disappeared from the edge of one's sight in the blink of an eye. Xiao Yan had already carefully inquired about the exact location of the island from Xue Mian when they had left the bottom of the sea earlier. Xue Mian's heart suddenly trembled when he saw the fury in Xiao Yan's eyes that could not be suppressed. He did not dare to hesitate even a little as he hurriedly pointed in the direction of the small island. Soon after, Xiao Yan's frightening speed once again shocked Xue Mian when his body rushed forward. After the heaven-devouring serpent by the side informed him of Xiao Yan's current cultivation, it appeared as though an enormous hammer had violently struck his chest, causing him to be unable to breathe. His heart was unable to calm down for a long time. As for the current Xiao Yan, he did not have the mood to bother about these things. His mind was currently filled with the little fairy doctor. He did not know why the latter had come here, but his heart was unable to remain calm when he saw that she had fallen into danger. With his mid-origin transformation realm cultivation, the Heaven's End steps, and the winged elephant art, Xiao Yan's speed had reached an unimaginable level. According to what Xue Mian had said, it would take at least 2 hours for an origin transformation expert to travel from the bottom of the sea to the small island. However, Xiao Yan had used all his strength to travel for less than an hour before a small island appeared in the distance. At the same time, the densely packed figures in the sky also appeared in Xiao Yan's vision. These people had come for the woeful poison body. Regardless of what kind of motive they had, they were all people who could be killed and should be killed by Xiao Yan at this moment. Dragons had reverse scales. Those who touched them would be enraged. Xiao Yan's reverse scales were the people he wanted to protect. At the same time on the island, a group of people were wearing strange smiles as they stared at the beautiful woman who was covered in wounds. Their eyes were filled with greed and lust. He, the woeful poison body is indeed different. Although she is only a 3-star Do-Di, she can actually unleash a strength that far exceeds her cultivation. After breaking through to the Do-Di level, even the poison in her body has become much stronger. Ha, although we have wasted quite a lot of time, we have finally seen through this girl's strength. Humph, if we can find a way to transfer her constitution to our bodies and split it apart, not only will we be able to increase our strength, but we will also be able to prevent the poison from invading our hearts. This is really killing two birds with one stone. He, it's not just two. I can see that this woman is a rare beauty. Following the strange laughter, a couple of bearded old men wearing long purple robes slowly approached the extremely weak woman in front of them with lewd smiles on their faces. An unwillingness and fury involuntarily surfaced on the woman's pale pretty face when she heard the obscene words being emitted from the mouths of these few people. The back of her teeth violently bit the tip of her tongue. A bloody scent immediately spread in her mouth. At the same time, a dark purple glow surged from deep within her dim pretty eyes. "Ha, are you planning to go all out? Ha, I don't like to play with people to death." Among the 5 people who slowly walked forward, a short and fat old man with a small beard laughed in a lewd manner. His body immediately moved. His short and fat body arrived in front of the woman at an unusual speed. His large oily hand was extended forward in an attempt to grab the snow-white neck of the woman. The latter's delicate body suddenly flashed at this moment. She seemed to have narrowly dodged the large hand of the short and fat old man. However, immediately after, a large piece of the long silk dress that was hanging on the lady's shoulder was forcefully torn off. Immediately, a large area of snow-white spring scenery was immediately exposed in the air. Ha, it's only fun when it's torn to pieces. The short and fat old man laughed loudly. He deeply inhaled the fragrant scent of the torn dress in his hand before grabbing at the woman's body once again. Swish! Just as the short and fat old man turned around, a dark purple do-chi pillar viciously sliced towards the short and fat old man's throat at lightning speed. Bang! However, the woman's attack was casually broken by the short and fat old man. At the same time, milky white Genesis chi swiftly swirled around the old man's body. Humph. Not bad. You still have the courage to launch an attack in such a situation. What an intense wild horse, however. The wilder the horse, the more thrilling it will be to conquer. A lewd laugh was followed by the other 4 people behind him. At the same time, the short and fat old man's body suddenly flashed, appearing in front of the woman at lightning speed. Under the latter's shocked gaze, a palm was sent flying. In the end, despite the woman's best efforts to dodge, it still landed on her right shoulder. Fresh blood splattered. The instant it was spat out, it transformed into a blood arrow that ruthlessly pierced towards the short and fat old man's forehead. Stubborn. This time, the short and fat old man simply snorted coldly. His body shook and a powerful aura immediately swept out, shattering the blood arrow that was heading towards him. At the same time, it once again smashed into the delicate body of the lady that was flying backwards. Immediately, the little do-chi that had just agglomerated within her body suddenly scattered. At the same time, the aura of her entire person also instantly fell to the bottom. The moment her lovely body fell to the ground, bright red fresh blood was involuntarily spat out. Her entire person immediately lost all of her fighting strength. Ha. The short and fat old man descended with a smile on his face. He walked in front of the woman and a lewd light flashed in his eyes as he looked at the pretty figure lying on the ground. He bent his body and grabbed at the woman's body. Although the woman was not unconscious at this moment, her delicate body could not move at all. She could only watch as the fat hand of the short and fat old man came closer and closer to her body. In the end, swoosh! Just as the woman tightly shut her pretty eyes and was prepared to muster all of her strength to seek death, a sharp piercing sound suddenly sounded in this world. Almost at the same time, a dark black flowing light instantly flew in front of the short and fat old man. At the same time, the latter's body also suddenly stiffened. Soon after, a deafening miserable cry immediately sounded. Only then did everyone present look towards the source of the sound, only to see that the right hand that the short and fat old man had just extended, along with half of his arm, had disappeared without a trace at this very moment. Only scarlet fresh blood continued to spray out. As for the pretty lady that was lying in front of him a moment ago, she had also disappeared at this very moment. When everyone's gazes hurriedly swept over, they saw that not far in front of the short and fat old man, a black-robed young man was gently placing the woman in his embrace on a flat rock behind him. After which, he slowly turned around and raised his head. His extremely cold gaze swept over everyone present. Damn it! It's you! It's you! You broke my hand! I want you to die! The short and fat old man, who was on the verge of going crazy due to the pain, crazily roared. His body was about to charge forward. At the same time, The four purple-robed people behind him and some of the experts behind them also looked at each other with gloomy expressions. They were about to charge explosively towards Xiao Yan. It was also at this moment that Xiao Yan, whose expression was extremely ice-cold, suddenly took a step forward. A powerful aura and pressure immediately swept out. At the same time, an extremely cold voice was spat out from his mouth. Whoever moves, dies. Chapter 1053. Whoever moves will die. Ji Han's words rang in the ears of everyone present, but they were quickly followed by a roar of laughter. As for the 5 purple-robed individuals at the very front of the group, their faces were filled with disdain as they released the boundless energy within their bodies and charged towards Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's expression did not change in the face of the 5 people who were charging over. The icy cold killing intent in his eyes became increasingly exuberant. When he saw that the short and fat old man at the front of the group was about to arrive in front of him, Xiao Yan's right hand was suddenly clenched into a fist. A frightening force agglomerated in his palm in an instant. At the same time, the turbulent and surging energy within the vortex within his body suddenly surged up at this moment. A pale blue flame surged out from deep within his eyes. Soon after, a punch was thrown toward the short and fat old man who was swiftly charging over. Boom! Fist and palm collided, causing a muffled sound to ring out. Terrifying force wrapped in Genesis Chi viciously slammed into the short and fat elder's other hand. The powerful force instantly broke the elder's arm with an unstoppable force, while the remaining force rushed into the elder's body. With a loud bang, the short and fat elder's body was sent flying uncontrollably, his aura fading away as he fell silent. Old 5. The expressions of the 4 individuals immediately changed when they saw that the short and fat elder had been sent flying by a single punch from Xiao Yan. They quickly turned their heads as their chilling gazes landed on Xiao Yan. Bastard, where did this stinking brat come from? To think that he dared to injure old 5, he deserves to die. Attack together, kill this brat. A voice that contained a viciousness was spat out. Soon after, the 4 purple-robed people once again charged towards Xiao Yan. All 4 of them were origin transformation experts. One of them had even reached the intermediate level of the origin transformation realm, which was not inferior to Xiao Yan. Now that the 4 of them had attacked together, a frightening aura that seemed to cover the sky pressed down on Xiao Yan. The powerful pressure that shook one's soul pressed down on Xiao Yan to the point that it was difficult for him to breathe. Even so, Xiao Yan did not retreat in the slightest in the face of the 4's combined attacks. Instead, his body violently jerked as 3 giant phantoms of different colors swiftly condensed behind him. They quickly shrank back, covering the surface of Xiao Yan's body layer by layer. Force Elephant Art. Golden Elephant Art. Wing Elephant Art. The 3 elephant art was used together. A tyrannical aura that could reach the sky immediately spread from Xiao Yan's body, causing even the ground beneath his feet to buzz and tremble. Ha! Not only that, Xiao Yan emitted an explosive cry from his mouth at the same time that 3 elephant skill was used. A frightening force and pressure immediately swept out from his body, and met the pressure of the 4 people head-on. Bang! With a muffled sound, the pressure of the 4's auras was single-handedly blocked by Xiao Yan. Next, the 4 looked at each other before their figures rapidly flashed, appearing in front of Xiao Yan in the blink of an eye. One of them waved his hand, Genesis Chi gathering in his palm as he viciously sent a palm strike towards Xiao Yan's chest. Behind him, the other 3 followed like shadows, their moves mysterious as they attacked Xiao Yan from different directions. Wing Elephant Art. Xiao Yan let out a low cry in his heart. His body immediately flashed swiftly and freely shuttled between the 4 of them, easily dodging the combined attacks of the 4 of them. At the same time, a fist heavily smashed into the chest of one of them. A grug sound was heard. At the same time, fresh blood sprayed out and that human figure flew out uncontrollably. Soon after, the other 3 people were also sent flying by Xiao Yan using the same method. However, their fates were undoubtedly much better when compared to the former. Given Xiao Yan's current cultivation, his speed was basically invincible amongst those of the same cultivation level when using the Wing Elephant Art and Heaven Extinction Step. In particular, the Wing Elephant Art could not only increase one's movement speed, but also increase one's speed in all aspects. Be it the transfer of energy, the formation of Do skills or the speed of one's attacks, all of them could be described as demonic. If Xiao Yan were to face off against someone of the same cultivation level, his opponent would definitely not be his match. As for late-stage origin transformation experts, Xiao Yan wanted to give it a try if he were to encounter them one day. He wanted to see just where his current limit was. However, at this moment, Xiao Yan was only thinking about how to kill these people. Of course, this also included those who had made their moves earlier but had stopped in the end. He had said before that whoever moved would die. He would do as he said. Damned brat. Don't be complacent too early. You want to fight 1 against 4? Aren't you thinking too simply? The 4 figures gathered together in a sorry state. Each of them looked at each other, a trace of blood hanging from the corner of their mouths. The qi and blood in their bodies were churning, making them feel extremely uncomfortable. They never thought that this brat who had suddenly appeared would actually possess such strength. Not only did he cause their 5th brother to lose the ability to fight, he had also caught them unprepared. However, even though this was the case, one should not forget that apart from being origin transformation experts, they were also 4 poison masters. 4 origin transformation poison masters. Attack together, use the corpse-sucking poison. The mid-origin transformation expert among the 4 gave a low shout. The 4 immediately nodded their heads and began forming seals again. At the same time, the milky white Genesis chi that originally lingered around their bodies strangely turned purple as sizzling sounds rang out from time to time. The 4 waved their hands and purple Genesis chi began to swirl, swiftly condensing into a large flock of crows in the air. The crows let out strange cries as they viciously charged towards Xiao Yan. Caw 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 caw. The 4 worked together, causing the purple Genesis chi to transform into countless purple crows that covered the sky as they swooped down towards Xiao Yan. The tremendous number of crows was akin to a giant purple cloud, a sight that would cause anyone who saw it to feel a chill run down their spine. Xiao Yan remained unmoved in the face of this. His body stood straight on the spot. He clenched his right hand and 4 long black-colored steel needles were agglomerated between his fingers. Just as the countless number of crows were charging over, Xiao Yan suddenly waved his sleeves. Immediately, a pale blue flame pounced forward. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a long spear that violently charged into the group of crows from the front. A frightening high temperature immediately spread apart. This group of crows that blotted out the sky and covered the land also disappeared in the blink of an eye. Almost at the same time, a pitch-black figure flashed past the 4 of them in a lightning-like manner. At the same time, the bodies of the 4 of them trembled. After which, they did not make any more movements. At the same time, the life that had existed in their eyes a moment ago was also gone. Quickly following this, Xiao Yan slowly raised his gaze. His gaze once again landed on those people who had moved their feet earlier. Terror soon followed. Chapter 1054. Ah! Miserable cries continuously sounded on the island. Numerous lifeless bodies fell from the sky uncontrollably. A long while later, nearly half of the so-called high-class Do Di on the battlefield had been killed by Xiao Yan. Only at this moment did he stop panting. He turned his head around and looked at the white-dressed lady lying on the huge rock. It was the little fairy doctor. Ah! Even though he was physically and mentally exhausted, Xiao Yan still parted his mouth and smiled. His body moved and he was about to fly towards the little fairy doctor below. However, at this moment, swoosh! A shocking energy rainbow penetrated Xiao Yan's body in an instant. Soon after, a surprised sound was suddenly emitted from the sky not far behind. An old man hidden under a black robe raised his head with a surprised expression. He looked at Xiao Yan's location only to see that Xiao Yan's body had scattered into an invisible light spot and disappeared from this world. An afterimage? The old man's pupils shrunk slightly. He did not expect that Xiao Yan, who had already expended a lot of energy, would actually be able to dodge his sudden attack. Chi! In the next moment, a rushing wind sound suddenly sounded in this world. The old man's expression immediately changed and he hurriedly moved to dodge. However, a corner of his black robe was still torn apart by the flowing light. The old man's expression sank as he looked at the corner of his black robe that had been torn apart. He raised his eyes and saw a black-robed young man floating in the air not far away. The young man's face carried an ice-cold expression as he stared at the old man. Since you were able to dodge my attack just now, I believe that you should have discovered me long ago. The old man took off the black robe on his body and revealed a skinny dark face. A pair of shady old eyes stared straight at Xiao Yan. His tone carried a strange smile as he spoke. Hearing this, Xiao Yan was non-committal and did not pay much attention to him. He waved his right hand and a raging flame immediately rose from his palm. The temperature of the world also suddenly changed at this moment. Heavenly flame. As he gazed at the blazing flame on Xiao Yan's hand, a greedy glint appeared in the old man's sinister eyes. Compared to the lady in white dress, the heavenly flame in Xiao Yan's hand was even more tempting to him. If it was not for this, it was likely that he would have to delay the timing of his attack. My friend, why don't you give me the heavenly flame and I'll let you leave with her? Suddenly, the old man grinned and said without any trace of politeness. Chi. However, the old man's words were met with a merciless flaming light from Xiao Yan. The stream of light pierced through the air and appeared before the old man in the blink of an eye. It was about to land on the old man's body, but the old man still looked indifferent. He looked at the stream of light that was rapidly enlarging in his eyes with an indifferent expression. Just as the stream of light was about to land on the old man's body, a thick arm suddenly shot out from thin air. Wrapped in Genesis Chi, the arm destroyed the stream of light with a single punch. Next, 3 muscular figures appeared in front of the old man one after another. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over and his heart immediately became cold. The 3 large men who had appeared at this moment were all origin transformation experts. Their auras were not weaker than the 5 people from before. Hee, how is it? Have you thought it through? Although you were quick in killing those fellows earlier, you must have used up quite a lot of energy, right? What's more, you've also killed those small fries. In your current state, if you're unwilling to hand over the heavenly flame to us 4 origin transformation experts, I really don't know how you'll survive. Therefore, I advise you to obediently hand over the heavenly flame to this old man and I can spare your life. The old man in black robes smiled as he walked out from behind the trio. The instant his words rang out, vast and boundless spiritual force instantly swept out like a storm, viciously descending on Xiao Yan's head. The expressions of everyone present abruptly changed when they sensed the terror of the spiritual force. The old man's spiritual force was at least Tier 5. Tier 5 spiritual force. How about it, are you willing? The old man seemed to be very satisfied with the shocked gazes around him. His hands were behind his back, giving him the appearance of an expert. However, his actions were rather shameless. Of course, in this world where the strong preyed on the weak, there was no distinction between good and evil. The spiritual pressure that descended on Xiao Yan's head became even more powerful after the black-robed, old man's words sounded. However, Xiao Yan's expression did not change even a little. Humph. Immediately afterwards, just as the old man in black robes was about to exert more pressure, Xiao Yan suddenly snorted coldly. Immediately, a terrifying spiritual force that was even more powerful than the old man suddenly turned into an invisible storm of energy, sweeping through the surroundings. At the same time, it forced the old man in black robes to take several steps back. The instant he raised his head, a deep shock immediately surged into the eyes of the black-robed old man. The expression on his face suddenly changed drastically. Even the 3 large, strong men behind him and the various strong people around him also had faces of disbelief as they eyed Xiao Yan in the arena. Tier 5 spiritual force. This brat actually has Tier 5 spiritual force as well. Damn it, so what if you have Class 5 spiritual force as well? I refuse to believe that you can defeat 4 origin transformation experts by yourself. With a loud shout, the 3 origin transformation experts behind the old man immediately stepped forward. Their powerful presences swept out without holding back at all. With a single movement, they turned into 3 streaks of light and arrived before Xiao Yan in the blink of an eye. They all swung their large fists and viciously punched at Xiao Yan. Bang! 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 Soon after, 3 muffled booms rang out. The 3 origin transformation experts could not help but let out miserable cries as their burly bodies were sent flying uncontrollably. In the end, they heavily smashed into the small island below. Immediately, everyone present raised their eyes with stunned faces. They saw 3 human figures standing in front of Xiao Yan at this moment. A powerful aura spread out from their bodies, causing the expressions of everyone on the island to change drastically. Judging from the presences of the 3 people who had suddenly appeared, they were all late-stage origin transformation experts. However, just as everyone's gazes landed on the 3 people, figures descended from the sky to Xiao Yan's left and right. There were actually over 100 of them. And these 100 people, without exception, were all origin transformation realm experts. 100 origin transformation experts. A group of trash dares to touch an elder of the Sea Clan in the territory of the Sea Clan. This is unforgivable. Kill them. Chapter 1055. Deep within the Northern Sea, within Xiao Yan's dormitory in the Sea Shark tribe. At this moment, an extremely beautiful lady in a long white dress was lying flat on the bed. Her pretty eyes were tightly shut. With every breath she took, there was natural energy flowing into her body. This lady was the little fairy doctor who had been rescued by Xiao Yan from the small island. At that time, due to the latter's severe injuries, the latter had already fallen unconscious after Xiao Yan had rescued her. Fortunately, with the medicinal pill that Xiao Yan had fed her, the injuries within the little fairy doctor's body had already improved. It was likely that she would be able to wake up from her coma soon. As for a complete recovery, it was likely that it would still require a couple of days. Beside the bed, Xiao Yan's gaze was calm as he watched the pretty person lying flat in front of him. The emotion in his heart involuntarily became a little excited. He did not expect that he would actually be able to meet one of the few friends he had in this foreign land. This was really a small world where one would meet each other. However, while Xiao Yan was feeling surprised in his heart, he also thought of Sun Er at this moment. Compared to Xiao Yan and the little fairy doctor, the latter was currently being imprisoned by a group of experts with unknown identities. Xiao Yan was still unaware of her exact situation. Hun Clan. Xiao Yan immediately clenched his fist tightly when he thought of this. It was unexpected that he was still unable to shake off that group of detestable things even after coming to this place. Ugh. It was also at this moment that the originally unconscious little fairy doctor on the bed suddenly frowned slightly. A slight muffled snort was emitted from her nose. Immediately, a pair of beautiful moving eyes slowly opened. The sudden movement of the little fairy doctor immediately attracted Xiao Yan's attention. His gaze looked over and coincidentally met the eyes of the little fairy doctor, who had just opened her eyes. Immediately, two emotions uncontrollably surged out from the bottom of the two people's hearts. Xiao Yan. The little fairy doctor ignored the injuries on her body as she suddenly stood up and pounced into Xiao Yan's embrace. At this moment, the tears in the eyes of this woeful poison lady, who had quite a great reputation in the outside world, involuntarily surged out of her eyes. They followed her beautiful face and rolled down. A sobbing sound immediately sounded in Xiao Yan's embrace. The action of the lady appeared to be venting all the grievances she had suffered during this period of time as she cried without caring about anything. The fairy doctor's actions caught Xiao Yan off guard. The expression on his face froze for a while. Only then did he hesitantly embrace the fairy doctor in his embrace, allowing the latter to cry in grievance. He completely did not notice that the door behind him had been opened at some point in time, and a young man and woman were standing there with faces of astonishment. Originally, Xue Mian and Hai Ling Er had only come to take a look at the situation. It was unexpected that they would see such a scene the moment they opened the door. It really caught them off guard. The two of them quietly withdrew. It was a long while later before the little fairy doctor finally left Xiao Yan's embrace with reddened eyes. The two of them exchanged glances and a bright red color immediately surfaced on the little fairy doctor's pretty face. Xiao Yan also felt a little embarrassed. He calmed himself down before asking the little fairy doctor why she had appeared on that island. The little fairy doctor only withdrew her mind after hearing Xiao Yan's question. While she was thinking in her heart, her pretty face involuntarily revealed an expression of hatred and self-blame. After which, she told Xiao Yan about the matter that had occurred on the Doqi continent a couple of years ago. Xiao Yan, from the way they dressed back then, it is very likely that the two of them are members of the Hun clan. Bang! The chair that Xiao Yan was sitting on was instantly blasted apart just as the little fairy doctor's final sentence left her mouth. His body also suddenly stood up. A wild and violent killing intent suddenly surged out from within his body. It actually turned into an invisible aura that lingered around his body. The expression on the little fairy doctor's pretty face immediately changed when she sensed this biting cold killing intent. A gloomy expression flashed deep within her pretty eyes. However, she quickly recovered, raised her eyes to look at Xiao Yan, and said with a frown, "Xiao Yan. Although I can roughly recognize that they are members of the Hun clan, I am unable to tell where they came from." Ghost Temple Gate. Xiao Yan inhaled a deep breath of air. He forcefully suppressed the wild killing intent within his heart. After which, he spoke with a pause between each word. Ghost Temple Gate? The little fairy doctor frowned and voiced her doubts. It is those damn things that have captured Sun Er. Their target, Is the Two-She Ancient Gods Jade again? It is the Two-She Ancient Gods Jade again? The little fairy doctor's heart was startled. The Two-She Ancient Gods Jade. Back then, it was because of this thing that the entire Do-Chi continent had turned into an uproar. It had even nearly sent the entire continent into a sea of fire. Originally, they thought that this matter would come to an end after Hun Tiandi was sealed by Xiao Yan. However, it was unexpected that there was actually another faction in this distant foreign world who had already set their sights on the Two-She Ancient Gods Jade while they thought that everything had come to an end. Even though there was a continent between them, these fellows were still unwilling to give up and had chased over. After which, Xiao Yan recounted the matter of the chief of the Ghost Hall, and how he had met Sun Heir to the little fairy doctor. An extremely cold murderous intent was immediately revealed on the little fairy doctor's face when she heard that those fellows had actually used Sun Heir as a hostage to threaten Xiao Yan. This was especially the case after she recalled the tactics of the Ghost Hall. Her heart was certain that these fellows were definitely members of the Hun clan. Such tactics were no different from kidnapping Xiao Yan's father, Xiao Zhan back then. This group of things that are neither human nor ghost. All they do is steal and do shady things. They really deserve to die. The little fairy doctor cursed furiously in her heart. However, Xiao Yan gradually calmed his heart. The wild killing intent that filled his eyes gradually disappeared. Although he was worried about Sun Heir, he also knew that he needed to first possess great strength if he wanted to rescue Sun Heir. Only by possessing a powerful cultivation that was sufficient to shake the Ghost Temple sect would he have the chance to rescue Sun Heir. Otherwise, regardless of how furious he was, it would ultimately be useless. Hence, rather than daydreaming, it was more important to think of a way to raise his own cultivation. After Xiao Yan withdrew from the room, he discovered that Xue Crown and Hai Ling Er were currently seated in the courtyard. The corners of their mouths contained an unknown smile as they watched Xiao Yan walk out of the room. Xiao Yan was involuntarily startled when he noticed the strange gazes of these two people. He looked at his own body, but there did not seem to be any changes. This involuntarily caused Xiao Yan to be a little surprised. When Xiao Yan walked closer, Xue Crown immediately had a mocking expression as he ridiculed him. He, old brother Xiao Yan, the one inside, is your wife? Chapter 1056. Cough, cough, cough. Hearing Xue Mian's sudden question, Xiao Yan was immediately startled. He forcefully coughed out the half of the breath he had just inhaled in his chest. His old face also instantly turned red. Hai Ling Er, who was by the side, could not help but reveal a pair of small canine teeth as she laughed in a lovely manner. Big brother Xiao Yan, we saw it just now. You and the big sister inside were hugging each other. Ugh! Hai Ling Er's words allowed Xiao Yan to instantly understand. No wonder Xue Mian would suddenly have such a question. It was actually because of this. You two fellows. After a long while, Xiao Yan finally recovered with a bitter smile on his face. He shook his head at the two people in front of him and said, She's not my wife. Then she is my lover. Although Hai Ling Er was usually considered quiet, that was only in front of the elders. When she was among the same generation, especially after she was no longer restricted by Xiao Yan's title of joint elder, she immediately became much more lively. However, sometimes, she seemed to be a little too lively. Hearing this, Xiao Yan still shook his head and smiled. His face immediately recovered its serious expression and said, She is my best friend. This simple sentence carried an extremely heavy weight in Xiao Yan's heart. In one's life, there were countless people that one had met and befriended. The number of people that one could hang out with and drink with was even more innumerable. However, the number of people that one could truly call one's friends were very few. This principle was absolute. No matter where one went, it was the same. Xiao Yan did not have many friends. If one counted carefully, it was likely that one could count them all with 2 hands. However, even so, these people were worthy of Xiao Yan protecting with his life. The little fairy doctor happened to be in this list. After Xiao Yan's words sounded, the 2 people in front of him did not say anything else. Even with Hai Ling Er's playful nature, she could also see a different feeling from Xiao Yan's eyes. After which, Xue Mian immediately changed the topic in order to prevent the atmosphere from becoming awkward. Xiao Yan also withdrew his thoughts and chatted with the 2 of them with a smile on his face. At the same time, in front of the tightly shut door in the dormitory, the pale-faced little fairy doctor also turned around in a lonely manner. Her movements were slow and stiff as she returned to the bed. A mist once again surfaced in her beautiful eyes. 2 days later, Xiao Yan and the little fairy doctor set off and left the northern sea. Originally, Xiao Yan hoped that the little fairy doctor could stay for a few more days. It would not be too late to leave after her injuries had healed. However, the little fairy doctor kept saying that it was fine and that she wanted to take a look at the outside world. Xiao Yan could not change her mind for the time being. At the same time, an inexplicable feeling of worry rose in his heart. As a result, the two of them left the bottom of the sea. Because the little fairy doctor was still injured, Xiao Yan asked Hai Zhantian to act. He easily summoned an origin transformation realm deep-sea beast for the two of them. The two of them sat on the beast's back and headed to the northern wastelands. On the way, when they passed by Beihai College, Xiao Yan could not help but stop. Under the little fairy doctor's accompaniment, he once again ascended to the peak of the mountain. The strongest person in Beihai College, Shui Miao, the fellow called Chen, seemed to know that Xiao Yan would come. He was actually waiting for the latter here. The two of them chatted for a while. They were both happy and passionate. These feelings could not be considered as enmity, but it was the rarest sincerity between true opponents. In addition, Xiao Yan was shocked to discover that the statue of the Tu-Shi ancient emperor that originally stood at the peak of the mountain had strangely disappeared into the mountain, leaving behind only the huge stone platform in the sky. Now, that place had become another training ground for Beihai College. In the entire academy, it was likely that only the elders in the elder seat knew a little about the unusual change in the statue. However, there was no one who could explain it. On top of feeling helpless, Xiao Yan bid farewell to Shui Miao and once again stepped onto the road. For the rest of the journey, with a giant beast leading the way, their speed was much faster than when they first entered the North Sea a few years ago. In just half a month's time, the two of them were not far from Northern Army City. Interestingly, along the way, they once again encountered a ship from Ryuzawa Square. This time, it was actually their boss, Lu Jin, who was leading the way. Unfortunately, they encountered a terrifying magical beast at the origin transformation realm. The ship was almost destroyed by that beast. When they saw the second giant beast rapidly approaching, despair appeared on their faces. However, they were shocked to see that the fellow that attacked their ship was actually forcefully killed by the other magical beast. Its powerful strength cut the magical beast in half. In the blink of an eye, the danger that enveloped the entire Ryuzawa Square was easily resolved. Soon after, Lu Jin saw Xiao Yan. Half a month later, Xiao Yan and the fairy doctor arrived at Beijun City. Coming here for the second time, Xiao Yan felt as if the place had remained the same, but the people had changed. When he had first come here, he had only been a 7-star Do D. Now, almost 5 years had passed, and he had already grown into an origin transformation expert. However, looking at this place, there were many differences compared to the past. Under the urging of time, experts constantly worked hard to become stronger. The entire world had undergone tremendous changes in the hands of these experts. Not long after arriving at Beijun City, the first piece of news that reached Xiao Yan's ears shocked him. In a short 5 years, the Northern Desolate Hall of the Northern Wastelands had expanded its influence all over the place. It had already swallowed up many of the old factions in the Northern Wastelands. Its overall strength was constantly growing. Its hallmaster, Qin Su, had already reached the late stage of the origin transformation expert. He could be said to be extremely powerful. Even the South Hallmaster's cultivation had reached the mid-stage of the origin transformation expert. He could be said to be the second pillar of the Northern Desolate Hall. These two people were without a doubt the strongest fighting force of the Northern Desolate Hall. However, when Xiao Yan heard the second piece of news, his expression instantly became gloomy. Half a month ago, the Northern Desolate Hallmaster Qin Su had seized a high-grade spirit stone within the area under his control. At the same time, he had also captured a young lady who was born with strange eyes. That young lady had a pair of bright, colorful eyes that were extremely intelligent. The most mysterious thing about her eyes was that they could actually see the location of all the treasures in the world. As long as a treasure appeared near the young lady, it would be discovered by her. It was said that her eyes were one of the few strange eyes in the world. Illusionary spirit eyes. Currently, the Hallmaster of the Northern Desolate Hall had already imprisoned that young lady. He was preparing to change her eyes in front of everyone in 2 days. He wanted to take that illusionary spirit eyes for himself. The moment Xiao Yan heard this news, a ferocious killing intent suddenly rose in his heart. Chapter 1057. Northern Wasteland. Northern Mountain. A vast and mighty crowd was flying over the top of the Northern Mountain to observe. At this moment, there were quite a number of elders from the Northern Wasteland Hall standing on the large open ground at the peak of the Northern Wasteland Mountain. They were directing the order of the place. An increasing number of people continued to surge over. The might of the Northern Wasteland Hall, in addition to the attraction of the illusionary spirit eyes, caused the number of spectators to be exceptionally large. This resulted in the Northern Wasteland Hall dispatching over 100 deacons and elders. This also indirectly displayed the foundation of the Northern Wasteland Hall to everyone present. The 100 elite Do-D were dispatched in unison. Very soon, the order of the place was stabilized. The tightly shut door of the Northern Wasteland Hall finally opened with a creaking sound at noon. Sunlight scattered in and a thin layer of fog scattered. The scene within the hall also appeared in front of everyone's eyes. There was not even a single human figure within the large hall. Everyone present involuntarily frowned when they saw this scene. Their aim for coming to the Northern Wasteland Hall this time around was to personally witness the legendary illusionary spirit eyes and the hall chief of the Northern Wasteland Hall, Chin Su. After all, both of them were extremely famous within the current Northern Wasteland. There were countless people who wanted to see them, but very few had actually seen them. This was because, other than a small number of people who were willing to submit to Chin Su and become his subordinates, most of those who had seen him were mercilessly killed by Chin Su. Hence, there was a saying in the Northern Wasteland that anyone who had seen Chin Su was either a lackey or a corpse. Although there were many people who were unyielding, there were also many people who dragged out an ignoble existence in this world. This was also one of the reasons why the Northern Wasteland Hall was able to swiftly develop over the years. Although there were many old factions in the Northern Wasteland who were already dissatisfied with the Northern Wasteland Hall, many factions chose to remain silent due to the latter's great strength. This kind of silence undoubtedly gave the Northern Wasteland Hall an opportunity. If they were allowed to continue developing, it was likely that the remaining old factions in the Northern Wasteland would be swallowed up by them in less than 10 years. However, no one was able to stop this development until now. As a result, today's scene had occurred. The experts who had gathered around the square frowned as they looked at the empty hall. They couldn't help but wonder if the so-called illusionary spirit pupil really existed. Where was Chin Su, the palace master of the Northern Wilderness Palace? He, are you looking for me? However, just as everyone was feeling suspicious in their hearts, a soft laughter was suddenly emitted from the sky. At the same time, a figure wearing a brocade robe suddenly appeared in mid-air in the middle of the square. As he appeared, a vast and mighty aura suddenly swept out from his body. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped the entire peak of the Northern Mountain. A terrifying aura enveloped everyone present. The terrifying aura caused everyone's expression to change drastically. Some of the weaker ones were suppressed to the foot of the Northern Mountain by this pressure. As for the others, they also gritted their teeth and looked up with ugly expressions. They stared at the center of the square. The figure who had suddenly appeared was the palace master of the Northern Wilderness Palace, Chin Su. Although this move of his could not truly injure anyone, it served as a great deterrent to this group of people. Once they returned, it would undoubtedly be a boost to his reputation. He wasn't a good person, so he didn't need to establish his prestige. He only needed to make everyone in the Northern Wilderness fear him. Only then would he be able to swallow up the other factions more quickly and steadily. Instead of giving them a physical blow, it was better to suppress them from the bottom of their hearts. At that time, there would naturally be people who would take the initiative to seek refuge with him. In today's event, not only did he want to seize the girl's illusionary spirit pupil, he also wanted to increase his terrifying reputation. After a while, when Chin Su got the result he really wanted and saw the look of horror on the faces of the onlookers, he retracted his aura with a satisfied smile on his face. Then he got to the point. Haha, everyone, I'm sure you've all come to my Northern Mountain because you've heard about the illusory spirit pupil. I also know that most of you are here for the illusory spirit pupil. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wishes. The moment he finished speaking, Chin Su waved his hand. Then, a figure suddenly appeared out of nowhere and was grabbed by the throat by Chin Su. When everyone looked up, they saw a beautiful young girl being held in Chin Su's hand. She was forced to open her eyes, revealing a pair of colorful eyes. Although the girl's aura was weak at the moment, the lively light in her beautiful eyes never faded. This is the illusionary spirit pupil. Wow! In an instant, the crowd was in an uproar. Numerous gazes were filled with surprise as they looked at the girl's beautiful eyes. A fire could not help but rise in their hearts. Immediately afterwards, Chin Su casually threw the girl's delicate body out of control. Just as she was about to hit the ground, a figure suddenly appeared in the distance and caught the girl's falling body with his own body. Kai. The person who caught Kai was her brother, Zhu Chong. The latter was captured by Chin Su together with Kai. His purpose was to force Kai to hand over her eyes willingly. Only then would the effect of Chin Su's refining be perfect. Otherwise, if there was even the slightest flaw, it could lead to unforeseen events in the future. This was not an outcome that Chin Su wanted to see. Brother. Kai's aura was weak as she moaned. When she saw her brother's blood-stained face, a layer of tears immediately surged into her beautiful eyes. Her brother's injuries were all caused by her. Seeing Kai like this, Zhu Chong also gritted his teeth hatefully. He tightly hugged the young girl in his arms as tears of unwillingness almost flowed out of his eyes. As her elder brother, he finally held back his tears. He could not allow his younger sister to be hurt for any reason. Ha ha ha, what a touching family. How about it? Have you thought it through? It has already been half a month. My patience has already been worn down by you. Little girl, today, you will either hand over the illusionary spirit pupil willingly, or you will personally watch me kill your brother and forcefully seize it. Chin Su's face revealed a ferocious expression and a sinister smile. A sinister look surfaced deep within his eyes. It was hard to imagine just how terrifying it would be if such a person was allowed to possess the illusionary spirit pupil. Kai, you must not agree to it. Even if you agree to it, we will still be unable to escape death. As long as you do not agree, he will definitely not dare to do anything to you. Bang! With a muffled sound, Zhu Chong's body immediately flew out uncontrollably. Blood splattered everywhere and his aura instantly dropped to rock bottom. At the same time, Kai was once again lifted up by Chin Su with a gloomy face. You really refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Tell me, are you willing or not? With a furious rebuke, Chin Su turned his terrifying face towards Kai and a cold murderous intent surged in his eyes. Being lifted up by Chin Su, Kai was extremely terrified. She subconsciously struggled and shook her head. Chin Su immediately snorted angrily. The hand that was strangling the girl's neck tightened slightly. At the same time, his other hand waved his sleeve fiercely and a powerful energy beam suddenly shot out towards Zhu Chong. It was only at this moment that Kai came back to her senses. She hurriedly nodded and hoped that the person in front of her would let her brother go. Unfortunately, everything was too late. As Chin Su smiled with satisfaction, the energy beam got closer and closer to Zhu Chong's immobile body. However, the former simply ignored it. He let go of Kai and made a hand seal to change his pupils. But at this moment, bang! The energy beam that had already arrived in front of Zhu Chong was instantly blasted apart by another force that suddenly appeared in the square. On the square, the smoke and dust dispersed. A young man in black robes was standing straight in the middle of the square. Behind him was Zhu Chong, who had nearly been killed by the energy beam. Looking at his face, who else could it be other than Xiao Yan?